What's up, everyone? I'm just getting stuff set up in the background. Gonna fill my cup with ice before I get started. So give me about a minute or two and we will get into the juicy goodness. What's up? What's up, everyone? We got DJ Jarvis chiming in. Does anyone have a copy of the script given to Mr. Burns? I'd like to read along. Ooh, I think the phrase is boo earns. And what is he's like, are they saying boo Burns? No, they're saying boo earns. DJ Jarvis, you know what the script is. Let's piss on crypto. All right, so we got the budget hearing up on the screen. The official budget hearing starts at 2:30 p.m., all right? So we got 38 minutes to get you caught up to speed with everything right now going on in the crypto market. That one guy you know is chiming in. Hola, brother, get ready to rock and roll. Here's to hoping Gensler gets verbally pimp slapped today. Would love to see Gary get not only verbally pimp slapped, but a little bit of biznacho slapped, man. Hold on, give me 1 second. I'm going to add a layer here. Give me 1 second. I got to put a hoodie on. Hold on there a quick second, folks. Whew. All right, sorry about that. I just got done working out, and I'm shaking just a little bit. I had a really hard chest workout. And so I'm going to add an extra layer of clothing on here. Hold on, let's go to this. Let's turn the homegirl on. What's up, everyone? How are you all doing today? Yeah, here we go. I'll center myself just a little bit. Move myself on over. How y'all doing? Michael O2 says, is the hearing now for Gary? So this hearing is in just over a half hour. This is Gary Gensler asking for money. This is the budget appropriations. Budget for House appropriations for budgeting. And what they're basically doing is setting budget requests for 2024. Now, what's crazy about this is Yellen, it was just talking about budget stuff over the weekend, in the last several days here. And that all it has to do with debt payments, debt ceiling, and all that. So, you know, Gary coming up to the hill asking for a lot of money right now with a Republican-led House, that's not gonna be such a good thing. That one guy, you know, says it's about in 30 minutes, thank you. Massimo says, Massimo in the house, what's up, Opa? Love that you say Opa. Oh, by the way, speaking of Opa, sorry, I'm not like touching myself or anything. I'm putting my hoodie on. Like I said, I just got done with the workout and got some food, and my chest is like still really pumped, so I'm feeling it. Speaking of Opa, I'm going to be happy because my daughter and my grandchild are going to be visiting here shortly. Super, super excited to see them come into town. Let's see, we got Tom VW, man. Good evening from the UK. Klaus, already the UK representing strong. Thank you from across the pond. Love me some UK love. By the way, for the viewers from across the pond, if you will notice the screen behind me, how freaking cool is this? I did this like a monument. I've been screwing around with the studio lights. I now have specialty lighting put up on our cool stellar picture, which features the UK, looking down on the UK as the centerpiece. So very, very cool. So shout out friends across the pond. Shadow Smith in the house saying, sup Klaus, how are you doing? Sup Shadow, how are you? Shadow, early retirement, liking it. Tommy Oliver chimes in, out of all the videos you post, I think these live videos are my favorite. All right. Thank you for saying that, Tommy. One of the reasons why I think you guys dig the live stuff so much, I think, is because I get to be myself raw. So like when you do videos, you have to be very, very aware of the algorithms. And I don't mean to say that like when I do live streams, I don't. But like when I do a video, I really have to make sure that like the video does good. Like it checks off certain boxes that people are looking for. I don't piss anyone off too much, you know, stuff like that, right? Because it's all about viewer retention and views. A live stream, I get to be more me because people look into the personality. And because the live stream is only up for like, you know, a couple hours, that's a very short window. So people are there to see, you know what I mean, the event that I'm bringing or like the presenter, which in this case is myself. So like I get to be more me. So it's kind of nice. I get to be more relaxed and chilled out. Brian Choma says banging and wanging. Holy shit. Brian, don't say that. Don't say banging and wanging. Is Justin Ford in the house? Hey, Justin, if you're here, hit me up in the chat. I want to see if Justin's here. That one guy, you know, says, because you're sassy. Ooh, I am sassy. Thank you. Who's brought the beer? I've got the chips. Shadow. No drinking the booze today. We are talking about branched chain amino acids, okay? We're also talking a bit about precarn, L-burn, okay? Or, L-burn precarn or whatever the hell. Or pre-burn L-carn, sorry. That a little bit with caffeine, pretty good to go. Mecco420 says, yo, what's up? What's up with you, man? What's up with you? Why is everyone now saying that the SEC will be crushed on April 18th? Has there been an announcement for the Ripple lawsuit? No, I have not heard anything regarding the Ripple lawsuit just yet. Freddie chiming in says, yo, Klaus, hi from the UK. Hey, UK fans, you like it? Look what I got up in the background. Here, check this out, guys. You know what I'll do? Here's what we'll do. I will put this up here just a little bit bigger. Hold up, everyone. There you go. Now you can see the stellar picture up in the background. All right, there you go. Now it's better. All right, so for the UK fans right there, you can see it. The picture is actually looking down and centered on the UK. The reason that is because that actually came from like a mega fan and friend, Ben. That came from Ben. You guys know Ben. He's always in the chats. And what's really cool is his brother actually did that picture for me. And so it used to sit up in my dining room, and then like I changed the studio around and I got a whole new light setup. In case you guys haven't noticed, I got now 4 different light setups in here that I can run independently of each other. Actually, technically 5. The 5th one I don't ever use. It's for special occasions. But like I have 4 lights set up, so now I can actually like change all my studio lights, move it around. I got it on beams and all that kind of stuff. So it's cool. Alaskan Clean Stream says, just kidding, I love you. It's cool, man. It's cool. No worries at all. But yeah, a lot of love from across the pond. Really cool picture though. And it's big too, like for scale, just to kind of show you guys. And we got time until the live stream, so we can ask any questions right now. But for scale, check it out. So like my arm, like it is from my fingertips past my elbows. I would say this is at least 20 inches, I would say. You know what I mean? Like 3 penis lengths, something like that. Can I say that on stream? Well, I did. So there you go. That's how you'd measure it. All right, Black Bart says, what's up, Klaus? You ever do any kayaking? Yes, I do. I do some kayaking. I actually have 2 yaks myself. Thank you very much. Okay, so there's this place by me. It's called Earl's Ford Landing. It is one of my wife and I, like, our favorite places. to go hang out in the river, chill out, stuff like that. And it's a really cool kayaking launch place. So yeah, love me some kayaking. We also got a lot of really good lakes out by me and great for kayaking. So yeah, love it, Black Bart. Miranda Score says, greetings from Belgium. Belgium, that's up there too. I see it up there as well. April 18th is the oversight hearing. I haven't heard about that, but thank you all for sharing that very much. I appreciate that. Al Rock says, nice, I'm right there in the middle of England. I told you guys. I told you it was so cool. Like, seriously, shout out to Ben. Texas is in the house. Joshua Sanchez, what's up with you? How are you doing? Joshua, I got a story for you. I was making a trip out to Colorado and I blew an O2 sensor. I ended up in Amarillo, Texas at a parts store out there. The nicest people ever. It was my son and I. We ended up at a parts store. Dude, they let us use like every freaking tool, even opened up packages, didn't charge us just so we could use the tool to put in this O2 sensor so we could get on our trip. And I'm all the way from South Carolina. That was Amarillo, Texas. And that was after I drove through the Texas oil fields up in the Panhandle, like way up there where the Oklahoma Panhandle is. And oh my God, nice people in those small towns. Love that area out there. So shout out, man. That one guy, you know, says about April 18th, Klaus, supposedly the SEC oversight is going to grill Gensler. Ooh, let's start Googling that. Okay, let's go SEC oversight. Let's see what pops up here, and let's just go to news real quick to see Congress grilling over crypto. Let's see if this is it right here. Hold on, everyone. Let's see. Do you guys, here we go. Patrick McHenry confirms SEC Gensler will testify before the House Financial Services Committee on April 18th. Republicans will hold Gary Gensler accountable for his flagrant disregard for law, jurisdiction, and the APA. Thank you, everyone. Decline Management says, Klaus can use Beans. Use my phone camera for QRs. Ooh, very well done. You know, I don't know if Beans can use your phone camera for QR. I don't see why not. I wouldn't see why they couldn't integrate that. Thank you, Decline Management, for that, and thank you for shouting out Beans. We did a sponsorship for Beans on one of the streams and one of the videos. Worked out great, everyone. Beans was really legit. Stellar Ecosystem Partner. Thank you for bringing that up, Decline Management. Wow, there we go. Thank you, guys, for bringing this up. I'm glad this happened. I'm sorry, I was working out and all that. And, working out, making some food. So yeah, I haven't been caught up on the news here. This is good. I like seeing this. Thank you very much for the catch here. You know what? Let's do this, everyone. You guys know how it is. Hey, Twitter stuff linked in below if you want to follow me on Twitter. Let's quote this retweet and say, stick it to his gremlin. Ooh, I got to spell right. His gremlin looking ass. Is that cool? At Gary Gensler. At Gary Gensler. There he is, at Gary Gensler. And then what should we put on here? Hashtag crypto. Boom. There you go. F off, you wanker. So we're starting off strong with ripping into Gary Gensler. I just sent it. There you go, public. That one guy, you know, says, so the idea is that we will need some kind of win so that he can tout and talk about and spin off a victory that he is useful. AKA, look at his big old fine, made Ripple pay in settlement. That one guy, you know, right now, the rumor has it that what's going to come out of the SEC, and I love the bow tie action, by the way. Fucking, oh shit, whatever. Pimp stuff, man. Pimp, all right, we may have just blown monetization out the window on this one, but that's okay. I think we'll be good. But what they're saying is that, you know how the CFTC just went after Binance? What they're saying now is that the SEC is going to be like, whoa. CFTC, those aren't commodities that were being traded, sold, and the rules that were broken there. These were securities rules that were broken. So word on the street has it is that the SEC is going to come out big against Binance and go for like flat out bans to try to say, hey, no. Binance falls under us because it's the securities they're dealing with. And that's why this is so important today, because today this is the budget hearing. All right? And the more that Gensler can go in front of the Appropriations Committee and say, hey, I have to regulate everything but Bitcoin. I need lots of money. They're going to be like, oh, okay, we got you.
But now if he goes there and they're like, yeah, but didn't the CFTC just say everything that they were trading there are commodities? So how are you going to ask for more money when maybe the CFTC should be the one that gets the money? See what I'm saying, guys? This is kind of like that hidden deet. This is that hidden juice and junk that you get behind the scenes. This is the politics within the politics in DC. DC's legit city, one of my favorite in the world. But man, it is all about money in DC. All right, Hakeem Muhammad says, hope he does. Hey, what's up, Hakeem? How's it going, man? Hakeem says, let's hope he doesn't weasel himself out. No, he has to be there. Like, this is a he has to. Like, I mean, like, this is a he has to. This is not a let's just hang out and, you know, send like a crony of yours. That is not the gist of it at all. In fact, you could see he's listed. Wait, hold on. Sorry, I went to the wrong one. I almost freaked out. I went on the Department of Justice and I saw a different name on there. He's on there. I just got to make sure I find the right one. There's Treasury, Rural America, all of Ben's. It's on here somewhere. I had it in the other video, guys. But yeah, he's listed. He is listed. Without Queen Montage says, is this the lawsuit case? No, this is Gensler asking for money. This is the budget hearing for the House Appropriations. And basically what it all comes down is who wants to control crypto. Michael Wheeler chimes in and says, do you think if we pour water on Gensler, he would multiply? Isn't that, wait, Michael, isn't that like if it's after 9? Or no, wait, is that like eating after 9? If you guys know what we're talking about here, Michael Wheeler and I are going to have a little inside joke action going on. Not inside joke, but like if you catch the, you know, the gist of what we're saying. Here's the problem. Gensler, he's got a lot to prove. The CFTC action on Binance, and let's do this, let's bring this up because you guys are freaking cool people. The CFTC's action on Binance, okay? Here's the deal, all right? What you got to look for is this. Whoa, that's not what we wanted. We want news, not maps, you moron. All right, sorry. But the big news with Binance, okay, is that when the CFTC comes out, the CFTC is saying, hey, you're breaking commodities laws, all right? You're hurting things that are commodities based. Like the CFTC can't go over things that are securities, right? Like the CFTC won't tackle stocks because that's all under the SEC's laws, right? Now, if we're talking like commodities, oil, gold, stuff like that, Bitcoin, you've seen the CFTC go after Bitcoin. CFTC, by the way, has been reaching out for stablecoins too. Keep it, pay attention to that, guys. Catching that. But so what happens here though is the CFTC goes after Binance and they're going after him for commodities violations. This was strategy. That was Rostin Benham, who I'm not a big fan of, okay? You've got two different devils you want to pick from, Gensler or Benham. What basically Rostin Benham did, head of the CFTC, was basically go after Binance right before this hearing to make the CFTC look good and the SEC look bad. Because in the public, all you hear is that the SEC sucks. That's all you hear in the public. But now the CFTC, right, they look good. Well, they're not really that good. It's just that they've been going after Bitcoin stuff and stablecoin. That's why you don't hear about them too much. But now that they went after Binance, they're doing this to make sure that Gensler gets even more heat today. Because Gensler is not working with the CFTC. They made that public. They made that public that there would have to be legislation done in order to make those two people to work together. That's crazy stuff there. So that kind of puts all this into context. Hakeem says, thanks, man. I'm fine. Great to see the market in green. Would have loved to have bought more XRP, but I did all I could, so it's okay. No worries, man. No worries at all. Whew. Interesting stuff, though. Shadow Smith says, you reckon he will get questioned if he overuses the phrase enforcement? I think what you're going to hear from the hearing is enforcement by regulation. Or, I'm sorry, regulation by enforcement. You're going to hear that from the hearing quite a bit. Quite a bit. We've got 23 minutes till the hearing. Alice Pond chimes in. Hey, Klaus, I'm from Scotland. Loving the XRP XLM action. Thank you, Alice Pond. And again, check it out. Like I said, look where that picture is drawn right around the center, everyone. Homie 288 says Gensler's eyes are black. He could be satin. I think he means Satan. That's okay. We'll say Gensler's satin because he's soft. Did you like that? I helped you out, dude. I got your back. You mean Satan. It's cool. Speaking of Gensler, let's have a little fun. We got to throw this up there. I've got some Gary. Where's my Gary photos? Where's Gary? I want Gary. Hold on. Where is Gary? Yeah. Here, see? Eyes are black. Black as death. Brett Garlic House says, anyone ever thought Gary Gensler could be on Ripple's side? I don't know how. Unless they got some weird betting game going on. That one guy, says, hey, it's a federal corruption commission game. Oh, who's got a bigger regulation wanger? Yeah, and it's regulation weighing based on budget. And that's what makes you to determine whose weighing is bigger. See, size, for everyone out there, when men are talking about size, if they don't possess certain things that are of size, they're referring to size as their budget, their checkbook, their balances. Jerome Powell's got a $31 trillion budget, which means he's got a little around. It's kind of how it works. And in DC, that's the fight right now. And the reason this fight is so big is because, remember, Yellen was out here recently saying, yo, debt problems, debt payments. Jerome Powell from the Fed said, just to let you know, we have money right now to make our payments, but what we're doing right now isn't sustainable and we need to change course. So a lot of people out there are saying, hey, we need to put the brakes on financial spending, while, boom, Gary Gensler gets to go in front of House Appropriations and ask for more money for 2024. Michael Wheeler, loving it, my good man. Michael Wheeler says, Gensler always wanted to be a man, he just never made the cut. Brian Chroma said, like I said, banging and wanging. He's got the phrase down. He's got it down. NC Brian D has a really good question. Says, how can they call anything illegal if they have to go to court to get clarity? And, I'm glad you brought that up, Brian. And that's why I have issue with Coinbase. Courts have already come out and said secondary sales are not securities. Worry more about ICO. Worry more about the initial launch. That's why I'm pissed at Coinbase, and that's why I took all my money off of Coinbase. I took everything out of Coinbase, everything completely because of that. You don't want to stick up for crypto? You don't want to release XRP considering the courts have already said, hey, secondary sales are protected, you're not a security? Okay, cool, then I'm not going to support you financially. That's how that goes. That's how this hearing is going to go here. You want to play our rules? F off, we kick you in the weenie when it comes to your budget. That's the game we're playing today. Ake Easy says, Jerome gets no dome, but maybe he gets a chrome Glock to the dome. You guys got it going on today with the chat. I told you guys, seriously, when I was talking in the videos about how the chat in these streams are the best, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Why do you think I start the streams usually a half hour, 20 minutes early? Because it's so much fun to do. Sorry, damn, the swearing is going to get me messed up. I'm telling you, the caffeine and the L-carn pre-burn, it's got me a little jittery. New York City Brian says, and how can the court interpret a law that doesn't exist? All right. Hey, Final Kens, yes. Okay, Final Ken says, can someone link the hearing, direct link, please? Final Kens, that is in the description below. If you look in the description of this live stream, I actually have the direct YouTube link to the House Appropriations budget because, yep, there you go. I already gave it the thumbs down. It is linked in the description below. Final Kens, I got your back. But anyways, how can a court interpret a law that doesn't exist? Okay, what a court is doing is using their approach, their guidelines, and their interpretations on what they think should be applied. The same thing happened to the internet. When the internet laws came out, the same thing happened. We're just going through it now with this. Every industry that's new has to go through this. It's just how it is. Pain in the butt. No, Final Ken's, no worries, man. Final Ken's letting us know that he is 420'd out of his gourd. Sniff, I can see you. I can see you, Sniff. What's up? Don't forget that like button, folks. Show Klaus some love. Yeah, 286 of you watching. Show me some love. Hit the like button. Thank you, Shadow Smith. Members have been rocking. Hey, Robert Melvin's in the house. What's up, Robert? How's it going? Whew, man. I don't know. I'm very interested to see here. Some of the other stories that I'm looking at is I want to see how the market specifically reacts when the hearing happens. What is going to happen? Ultra Piston. Oh my gosh, comment, guys. Comment of the day. Hold on. Let me read this to you guys. Comment of the day. Ultra Piscine. Look at this. I love this. Arranging a budget with a debt ceiling that hasn't been increased yet. Bit like my wife spending, well, some working. Exactly. And then the worst part on top of that is Rostam Benem goes after Binance, okay? Goes after Binance for commodities violations, showing then everyone in the budget committee, hey, the SEC isn't going to rule crypto, the CFTC is. Dude, tell me, this is all set, man. AGZ caught my Chrome Glock comment. Oh, man. When I put my Glock to your dome and you start to cry, boom, biddy, bye. See, I got your guys' back, man. I could bring it all. Sniff, okay, cool. I actually didn't go with the Springfield XC9. Instead, I bought a PSA compact with 10 megs included. Ooh, that's a good deal. But I am a Springfield guy. I'm just partial to that. You guys know that. Tim Doyle says, would love to stay, but I just can't watch Gary see you on the recap. Jimbo Tango in the house. Jimbo, what's up? Contains the drain is Gensler's CYA. Yeah, we do need to clean the swamp out. Vegan Abibi Justin says, get yourself 3 XRP with this. Very well done. Very clever. Everyone, as usual, let's give Vegan Abibi Justin a big thank you. We had a super chat that popped out earlier. Make sure you give them a thank you as well. Thank you, Vegan Abibi Justin. I greatly appreciate that. Oh, man. Crazy stuff, though. Crazy stuff. But yeah, let's give him a big shout out, everyone. Give him a big thank you. My apologies earlier for Decline Management. Everyone give Decline Management a thank you as well. Decline Management did a donation at the beginning of the stream, so make sure you say thank you. Ty Clark in the house. What's up, Ty? How's it going? How are you doing, sir? Hanging out in the upstate. You're smelling the flowers. We're getting the blooms all over. Shadow Smith, very happy. Very first day of retirement. Everyone give a big congratulations to Shadow Smith. First day of retirement for Shadow Smith out there, everyone. So let's give him a big thank you. But the big news that's coming across the board. Oh, I'm loving the weather, Ty. It's the pollen's hit my lungs a little bit, dude, when I run. But other than that, I'm loving this, man. Like, this is good stuff. Like, we're still getting cool weather at night, so you could have your windows open when you sleep and not freeze your ass off too much. But then, like, nice and warm during the day where you get the sun. Oh, I love it, dude. Ty, it's great, man. Thank you guys for showing the love to Decline Management. But the big news right now is Chairman Patrick McHenry confirms that Gary Gensler will testify before the House Financial Services Committee on April 18th. It looks like I will not be taking a day off that day, and we will be live streaming it. Ooh, man. Simon Singh says, how is it, guys, from South Africa? Hello, Simon. Without Queen Morgan, Montage says, Klaus, when do you think the case will end? Here's the thing, even if the case is lost, like, and the SEC wins, they're right away going to appeal it. It would extend it for a couple more years. Like, because then you would go through all the different appeals, and then the SEC could then appeal the verdict. So this can be dragged out for a while. This is all in attempts to drain Ripple Labs of resources and money. That's all this is. The only problem is what the SEC doesn't realize, though, is that they're adding fuel to the fire of people being pro-XRP, pro-Ripple Labs because of government overreach. Even people that aren't big into like crypto, Ripple, and XRP are looking at this going, yo, that government is kind of doing some shady stuff. So that's not too cool, man. That's not too cool at all. All right. Alex says, hey, when is Gary going to be live? 13 minutes, Gary is going to be out on the screen, but Gary is also going to be testifying House Financial Services. Ooh, I'm excited for this one. Set your calendar. In fact, I'm going to make a note. Hold on, let me get my pen out here. I want to get this one. So April 18th, we got the House Financial Services. We got Gensler hearing. Yes, I'm excited, everyone. I'm marking it down. Oh, Ajax Norton says, hey, it's me, Jock. I just changed my name. What's up, Jock? Good to see you. Yeah, if you guys do change your name, please let me know so I know who it is that's in the chat. Oh, Vegan BB Justin says, doing biceps while I did this. Well, Justin, I'm doing push-pull legs, and today was push. So I did incline bench, I did incline dumbbells. I did landmine single arm presses, landmine 2 arm presses, landmine shoulder presses, and then I did tricep ropes supersetted with the cables, and then I flipped around and did cables overhead. So, there you go. Oh, and I'm dieting, by the way. Cutting hardcore, man. Cutting hardcore. Alex Antros says, made it. Did my like, share, subscribe. What's up? Good to see you here. Thank you, Alex Antros. Good to see you in the house. Twitch is here as well. Oh, man. Michael O2 is playing the Voodoo Mama Juju action, saying, I got my dolls and some needles ready. If you don't know what you're talking about, guys, it's because Gary Gensler, the demon, the devil himself, will be out in front of Congress begging for money. Joshua Sanchez just dropped a 20 on us. Everyone, give Joshua a big thank you for supporting the channel, supporting the team. This is important stuff. Donations like this, super chats like this, make it so we don't have to rely on advertising, so we don't have to bore you guys with that crap. Thank you so much, Joshua. Make sure you give Joshua a big thank you. Shadow Smith says, doing some reps, but they're 12-ounce reps. Nico chiming in says, howdy, y'all made it. Did I miss? No, you did not. Gare Bear is on the mic in 10 minutes. Do you think he sniffs that finger? Do you think he sniffs that finger? Man. No. You guys, no. Not everyone can change their name, okay? Not everyone can change their name. I can't keep up with everyone. That's crazy. Not everyone. No, limited name changes, all right? We're going to make a waiting list. Oh, man. You guys, thank you so much for the super chats. I greatly appreciate it. But just make sure you guys say thank you to everyone who has done the super chat, super thanks. So big thank you to Joshua for donating to the stream. We've got 10 minutes until the man comes on who sniffs his finger. That one guy you know's got a good one. That one guy you know chimes in and says, I hope XRP goes public, but I want in before anyone get halvesies. Okay, here, I'll explain it to you guys super quick. For those of you that want to know like how Ripple, it would technically be Ripple Labs that would go public, okay? Not XRP. They wouldn't do XRP. They would do Ripple Labs as a company. When that happens, depending on what exchanges you buy your stocks from, those exchanges will have IPO contracts. Those IPO contracts will allow you to get into an initial public offering. You will then be able to buy that share within a certain range price that they predicted in, and then at market, they make actuation. So what happens is you'll be able to do it. Now, when you do the IPOs, a lot of them are going to have stipulations on time frames that you have to hold it for before you can dump it. Or what you could do is you could wait outside that phase, buy in, and just play from there. But all of the big IPOs that we've seen regarding things like that, you've always seen like this big crazy blow up and then just drop on down. Same thing happened with the trust, the GXLM trust and all that from Grayscale, that kind of stuff happened. I'm not saying that that is what's going to happen, but that's what you see a lot of time with those IPOs. But that's how you would get in on that. You would get in on the IPO market. To the Moon says, will they bring up meetings with SBF? Ooh, that's kind of hard to say. Oh, that's a good question. Ben's in the house, looking crispy in his drip. Nice shirt, Ben. I love it. Ben drops a 20 on us. Everyone, give a thank you to Ben. You know how it works. You got to say thank you. And Ben, I don't know if you saw it earlier on the stream, but we're going to call out Ben a little bit. Ben, if you were here at the beginning of the stream, I'm going to help you out. So I spent some money and I got some new studio lights, okay? Quite a few lights. Stripper lights, LED lights. I got dispersers. I've got a light rail behind me. It's pretty cool. Like, pretty cool stuff, okay? And I'm not even done setting it up yet. I've got 3 more light stands still to set up. So anyways, I spent some money, got some lights. What I did, though, was I got it now. So I got the spotlight, Ben, up on the picture that you sent me. So you know how, like, when they have, like, the memorials and, like, you know, the lights, like, shine up on the memorial, like, flags and stuff like that? That's what I thought would look cool with this. So I have it that it's shining up on there so that everyone can see the picture. And so wanted to say thank you for that, Ben. Thank you very much for supporting of the channel. Guys, Ben has been a massive, massive support of the channel. So just wanted to give a big shout out, special thank you to Ben. So for those of you, when you see this picture in the videos, that's that's a thank you to Ben. That is an homage to Ben. And essentially the picture, okay? I'll give you guys just like my emotion real quick. We got 7 minutes, okay? But what's really cool about this picture though is it's a constant reminder to me of how I have to keep working hard to get what I want to achieve, right? And when you get to places you can achieve, you get to look back on the places you've been. So there's some symbolism in this picture. So yeah, I did. I got some new studio lights, tons of cool stuff. I've got it all set up. You can see no more green screen. I'm going to get rid of that. I actually have a second stage right behind me over there that I'm not done yet that I'm working on. That's going to be where the other studio lights go. So yeah, there's a lot of symbolism in this picture. Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you, everyone. All right, so what we're going to do, we've got 7 minutes right now until the stream starts with the Gensman coming in. We're looking right now at markets being green, which is good. What I want to see from this is the market at least move sideways. Seriously. At the worst, I want the markets to move sideways. You know Gensler's at least going to make one comment. You know? Final Ken says, hey, what have you been doing, guys? And Final Ken's is like, yo, I've been crypto trading and Pokemon battles 420 all day. Oh, well, I can't join you in the fun stuff, but I can join you in the Pokemon. Oh, hold on, Final Kens. Hold on. I'm going to flex on you. This is totally unplanned. Ready, guys? Watch me. I'm going to flex on Final Kens. Rayquaza. Full graphic, hollow. Pokemon. There you go, Final Ken. Shout out to you, my good man. So Final Ken's is playing Pokemon, crypto, and bong rips. Good for you, Final Ken's. To the Moon says, Klaus, last week don't buy, next week up 20%, you pulled a Kramer. Dude, I bring the news. Hey, if the news is negative, man, I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, things are great. When things are great, I'm not going to be like, no, things are bad. But let's be honest here. Why did this move happen? This move happened because of the money that came up in the Asian market. The Asian market soared 3 XRP pairs in the top 20 on Binance. In Korea, XRP was traded more than Bitcoin and Ethereum combined. So I'm sorry if I can't predict the news, I just report the news. So yes, before the Asian market, it did not look good, and now it looks way good. Let's just hope the Asian market's got enough money saved up to get through this. You still got a lot of bears here out west that they got to get through. But right now, that's where it's coming in from. Just yanking your chain. No, it's cool, man. No worries, man. No worries at all. But no, that's the hard part. I think for crypto, and we got 422 of you watching. For crypto, I think the hard part is this, okay? The hard part is what we're learning is crypto trades faster than stocks. It's more volatile than stocks. The news, the community, the reactions are faster. They're more intense. Everything is much more amplified in a crypto scope than it is with like traditional securities. And that's something a lot of us right now are really picking up on, that every time this thing happens, we think the reverberations are going to slow down. They don't. We get these big just blow ups in price, and we go up 50% in like 2 months, couple weeks. It's nuts. Totally nuts. Oh, man. Yeah, everyone, please check out Twitch Radio. Twitch, good friend of the channel as well as myself. Shout out to Twitch. Twitch, love your coffee suggestions. Love it. Thank you very much for that. Oh, man. Yeah, Shadow Smith, I'm telling you, man, that's the deal. Brett Garleyhouse says, Klaus, if you had to pick a Pokemon that is XRP, what Pokemon would it be? All right, if I had to pick a Pokemon that was, Scizor. Because he's got the arms, like when he crosses them, it looks like the X. That would be mine, would be Scizor. Except you'd have to change his color because he's naturally green. Oh, look, I just Pokemon dorked out for you guys. How freaking cool is that? Woo, man. So here's the deal. We have right now 2 minutes until they are live. What I'm going to do is, you guys know the drill, okay? When this fires up, all right, I'm gonna shut down the house mic and I'm gonna put in their direct feed. Okay, they've only got one feed for this, so let's hope it's a good one. Christian says, do you ever plan on going on to Rumble? I don't know, man. It's so, like, my big problem with Rumble is I want to keep all my attention to YouTube. Like, I don't want my product on YouTube to diminish because I'm spending more time on another platform. And that's, like, a big concern of mine is because, like, I know my channel's not the fastest growing. But, like, I really think, like, out of all the channels out there, like, I've got, like, legit chat. Like, I watch other live streams out there. It's very different. Like, there's not as much interaction. Chat just kind of does their thing. But, like, I mean, we actually, like you guys, like, talk to each other. It's freaking cool, man. Like, it's totally cool. So, yeah, I get it wanting to go to, like, another platform for me to monetize. But for real, like, I think that the real value is making sure that I stay with the fan base now. And I stick with the fan base now, and I keep giving you guys more and more, right? Like, the super chats, the donations, like, all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's important. The money I spend on, like, lighting, extra rigging setup, changing, my whole room, like, like, all that, it's all worth it. And I'm just afraid if I were to go to, like, a second platform, that maybe that would detract from this, and that would give you guys a lesser product. And I don't want to risk that. I care too much for the fans and what it took to make this channel. I've been doing this for over 2 years, like well over 1,000 videos, and I just don't want to put that into jeopardy. So, but thank you though for bringing that up. For me, it's not worth it. Juice. All right, we are waiting for him at any time. Anytime, come on, House Appropriations Committee. Sorry, just waiting for it now, everyone. All right, Ben chimes in, thinks we're going to get some pump action in April. It'd be nice, man. That'd be really nice to see some April movement. It would be good to see some movement coming out of the spring that's sustained, right? I don't want to see a brick wall. I'd like to see some pauses from the Fed while CPI goes down. That's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm also waiting for them to start this live stream. Come on, guys. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's get your things going here. Sorry, I'm just waiting for them right now. Jonathan Chavez says, I appreciate the atmosphere and insights you bring to the community. Keep up the stellar work. Oh, I appreciate it. And thank you for the Scheller Stout out. I like hearing about that. Sorry, I'm just looking to see all the other different ones. They got a whole bunch of them that are on here. Navy request, Capitol Police, Food and Drug, Bureau of Land Management, Homeland Security. Holy crap, do they got a bunch, you guys. Oh, Securities and Exchange 230. Let's just click that up on here. Just waiting for them to go live. Got it up on the screen. And you can see, yes, Gary Gensler is listed on here. Oh, and here's his testimony. They just uploaded it. They just uploaded Gary's testimony. So we're waiting for their live feed to kick in. They're about a minute late here. And remember, too, this is their first meeting for this group now, because this is a new session of Congress, so I don't expect them to be completely, fluid and smooth. So we're going to have to just kind of bear with them here. But here's Gensler's statement. The SEC is critical to the American public for 90 years. Federal securities laws and our work to oversee them has played a crucial role in the good times. The agency's clients are 330 million Americans, your constituents who invest their 401ks and IRAs through brokerage apps, mortgage loans. Oh, Gary. Yeah, this is Gary's statement right here. Oh, man. Just waiting for them to go live, everyone. Just a couple minutes. They are running late right now. I've got their main page right here going. They have yet to start it. They're so far 2 minutes late, so we can definitely knock them down for points, right, on being prepared. Come on now. Hold on. I'm seeing some action up on the screen. Hold on. I just saw this coming up here. Hold on. Classic fluff. Yes. Drinking word is enforcement. Yeah, you guys got to come up with a drinking word for sure. Waiting for them. Oh. Hold on, everyone. Give me a split second here. Robert Melvin is now Reverend Funky. It was my stage name in my bands. Way to go with that. All right, we've got they're still, and what they do, they won't bring their hearing on until they start talking. So waiting for them to go live now. Naughty, naughty, they are late. And I've got this directly from their page. And let's see if we can find anything else here. I'm going to see if someone else is rebroadcasting it super quick. Give me a second. Gary Gensler, House Appropriations. Whoa, that's House of Pain, guys. You don't want that. Gary Gensler, House Appropriations. Waiting for them. Guys, they are late. That is the gist of it right now. They are late. Phil Kane says Alex Cobb has it live. Let's take a look here. Let's see what they got live. Alex Cobb. Hold on a second here. Alex Cobb. Let's see. What do they got? Do they got it live? I think this is a different Alex Cobb. Hold on here. Hold on. Just waiting for it, guys. Waiting for them to come live. And if you guys are seeing a feed somewhere else, let me know. But as of right now, the direct feed from the House Appropriations has yet to start. So I have yet to see anything from them regarding this. So if you guys are seeing a feed, let me know. I'm going to check their thing right here. Hold on a second here.
Last week, Secretary Yellen made it clear that Congress must provide
there we go.
funding
We're live.
necessary for the Treasury Department and other agencies to work together to prevent. Last week, Secretary Yellen made it clear that Congress must provide the SEC plays necessary for the Treasury Department and other agencies to work together to prevent this economic unease. The SEC plays a critical role in that mission. We oversee a number of regulatory commissions. The IRS, to make sure people pay their taxes that are fairly due. The Consumer Product Safety Commission, to make sure the consumers are protected from corporations that they couldn't possibly oversee themselves. The SEC, which tries to keep the market a fair, open, and transparent growth factor in our economy. And the Election Assistance Commission, which tries to make sure that we have fair and transparent elections. From supporting cryptocurrency enforcement to promoting climate change disclosures, the SEC is also working to address other emerging challenges facing our economy. As a firm believer in the public's right to petition their government, I want to ensure that the SEC is also providing robust opportunity for public input into its proposals. We must maintain the integrity of our markets, protect investors and consumers, and promote greater accountability in the financial sector. We cannot let new shocks derail the economic momentum we've built in the last 2 years, especially at a time when Americans are facing rising costs. As an aside, this economy has created 12 million jobs in the last 24 months, more than any other administration in the history of our country. Is inflation too high? It is. Is inflation being high all over the world a reality? It is. But this economy is one of the more robust economies, if not the most robust economy in the world today. We cannot do that. We cannot achieve those ends without a fully funded, fully equipped SEC. We have a $100 trillion market, and we cannot oversee that market and make sure it's fair and that confidence it remains in the market's fairness if we do not have the sufficient number of people. That's why I believe we ought to execute on the President's budget proposal, which requests $2.436 billion for SEC, approximately, as you indicated, more than $200 million additional. It is paid for, of course, out of fees, but the people necessary to do that are absolutely essential. Like the rest of his budget, the funding is investment in America's economic future. Conversely, making cuts to the SEC and other agencies like it would only leave our economy more vulnerable to turmoil like what transpired in the Silicon Valley Bank. I think I'm over time, and I apologize for that, but I'm pleased to welcome Gary Gensler. For full disclosure, I've known Gary Gensler for probably 40 years, maybe more than that. His father was a good friend of mine, so I'm not totally objective when it comes to Mr. Gensler himself. I hope I'm totally objective as it relates to the SEC. I yield back.
Let the record reflect that he yielded back with 30 seconds remaining. Only kidding. Chair Gensler, it is, you have a very important job, and it is truly important for you to be here today, and for that we thank you. And with that, I'm going to recognize you for your opening statement. Your prepared remarks will be entered into the record.
I thank you so much, Chair Womack, Ranking Member Hoyer. A point of personal privilege, it is remarkable to be in front of Representative Hoyer, who was a good friend of my father's. I guess when I was a little kid, I would hear about Steny this and Steny that. That's where I'm going to end. But I thank you. It's really good to be in front of you and testify the first time before you. And members of the subcommittee, thank you for inviting me to testify on behalf on the SEC's fiscal 24 budget. I always have to say, this is customary, these are my own views, and I am not speaking on behalf of my fellow commissioners or SEC staff. That's a standard language. The SEC, what are we? Who are we? We're critical to the American public. For 90 years, the federal securities laws and our work to oversee them have played a crucial role in good times and in times of stress. And these laws benefit, as the chair said, investors on one side of the market, issuers, capital formation on the other, and then the markets in the middle. That's our three-part mission. But it's about those investors and the issuers on the other side, and then trying to ensure that the middle of the market is efficient, competitive, transparent, and yes, these times of stress remind us, resilient. The agency's clients are 330 million Americans, your constituents, who invest in their 401ks, IRAs, trade through brokerage apps, take out mortgages, auto loans, and the like. They're Americans accessing the capital markets to fund their businesses from small to large, their new ideas, their innovations, and the like. It's for the investing public and issuers that our staff must continue to drive efficiencies and protect for financial stability in what the ranking member said is a $100 trillion capital market. We've seen tremendous growth in this market. More people than ever are participating. Just two quick statistics. Just in the last 5 years, since 2017, the number of clients of investment advisors has grown 60% to 53 million, from just about 36 or 7 million. Another statistic, the actual transactions in our stock markets, equity markets, has doubled in the last number of years. Technology also rapidly transforming our markets from electronic trading to cloud, to artificial intelligence, to predictive data analytics. Just the dynamism of our markets is a great thing. It's sort of like important to our capital markets, and this shows the innovation itself of America. Further, we've seen the wild west of the crypto markets, rife with non-compliance, where investors have put hard-earned assets at risk in a highly speculative asset class. Such growth and rapid change also means more possibility for wrongdoing, as the cop on the beat, and about a quarter of our workforce is enforcement, another quarter is examination, so fully half of our staff. It's also, we have to be funded enough to meet the match of bad actors. Thus, it makes sense that the SEC grow along with the expansion of these markets. So just to put some context on the funding to meet the scale of our mission, what we've had is, I'm pleased to support the 24 request for $2.4 billion. We actually shrank in the years from 2016 to 2021, about 4% or so. And with this committee's help and the full Congress's help, just in 23, we've gotten back to about 2 or 3% more in headcount than we were 7 years ago. You authorized, or you in your appropriations, 400 new positions in 2023. But those positions come on in the latter part of this year because we have to go out, recruit, hire all those folks. So full year 24, part of that is to fund those people for the full time. We're asking for 170 more positions. That's about 3% growth on where we are. As this committee considers the request, of course, we're deficit neutral. Appropriations are offset by transaction fee. It's tiny. It's $8 per $1 million of trading, so it's very tiny. Nearly 2 years into this role, I'm grateful to work alongside the remarkable staff, fellow commissioners, to help maintain America's capital markets. I truly think the best in the world, but we want to keep it that way. I thank you. I yield back 22 seconds.
I thank the chairman. And we will begin our round of questions. And let me remind everyone, we're on the 5-minute rule. You guys got a timer in front of you. You know what you have. And we will acknowledge people, call on people in the order they were seated at the time the hearing started. We may have some other folks show up a little bit later. Mr. Chairman, at the SEC, enforcement actions, examinations, and regulations are at the forefront, supported by weekly, if not daily, actions by your agency. Unfortunately, one of the SEC's core tenets, capital formation, continues to be an afterthought or an outlier, as I said in my opening remarks. Chair Gensler, how do we ensure that public markets are thriving and that capital formation continues to be a priority at your organization?
It's very much priority. It's priority of the staff. As I said in my opening remarks, investors on one side, capital formation on the other side, whether it's small or large corporations, whether it's somebody tapping into the mortgage markets to get capital so they can buy a home or borrow for the auto markets. Every rule that we put out for public comment has an economic analysis, and as Congress has mandated, around efficiency, competition, and capital formations. So we benefit from the public's feedback, this committee's feedback on efficiency, competition, capital formation. So it's at the heart of what we do every day.
Would your Republican commissioners, would they be in agreement on that?
I think that they would agree that it's core to our three-part mission. I think they would agree that it's a congressional mandate, and I think that based upon public comment, we get feedback as to how we best promote investors on one hand, capital formation, and as I say, the markets in the middle.
Would they agree that it's an appropriate priority with the agency?
Well, again, I don't want to speak for them because I'm only allowed to speak for I agree it's an appropriate priority.
Would you be willing to testify alongside them and commit to doing that in the future?
I testify whenever Congress calls me.
Okay, I'll take that as a yes. The SEC budget requests $265 million in new funding, which is a double-digit percentage increase. However, over the last few years, regulations have been on the rise. If the SEC receives this increase, should we expect more of the same? Because how does burdensome reporting requirements and other disclosures, especially those related to the climate, possibly enhance capital formation and increase American taxpayer wealth?
We've put out to the public not only each of the rules, but also our unified agenda, these 50 or 55 projects that we have that are very public. We're not planning to add to that based upon this appropriation. This appropriation request is really about making sure we have the examiners, the cops on the beat. Over half of our staff is examination enforcement, and the increase of the 400 positions this current year and the 170 next year, the vast majority of those are in really 4 areas: examination, enforcement, the Division of Corporate Finance to review filings, and in our technology area. Finally,
I want to ask about what you're doing with the money that Congress already has, and this is more of a people question. The SEC is relying almost exclusively on an academic fellowship program for the leaders of some of your critical divisions. Is it true that at least 4 of the SEC's top 6 divisions are headed by directors that have long been in academics? And if so, why is that the case?
Yes, it is true. 4 of our divisions are run by extremely talented individuals that are willing to serve their country and partake in this great experiment called democracy, and to actually help us. The Division of Economic Risk and Analysis is an economist, a world-class economist from the University of Pennsylvania, and the other three divisions are run by really strong individuals that are committed to the same three-part mission that the Congress has laid out.
I understand that, but would it not be important for there to be an experience factor? Folks running these key divisions that have experience. And let me just quote from the Inspector General's report that I highlighted in my opening statement. It reads, and I quote, "Some reported an overall increase in attrition and difficulties hiring individuals with rulemaking experience. Managers reported relying on detailees, in some cases with little or no experience in rulemaking." So, and that's in your own IG report. So help me understand why this is the case and why we should not be expecting and demanding more experience.
One, the leadership are terrific. These individuals of all 6 divisions are really quite talented individuals and have lending their time and experience to the American public. 2, in terms of your question about attrition, we run about 6% attrition right now, which is consistent with many of the other agencies that you'll be reviewing in the federal workforce. And we've consistently also ranked as one of the best small to mid-sized agencies to work at by outside ranking services and surveys. So I'm really proud of the SEC staff. I'm proud to say that I'm part of it, these remarkable 4,600 people and their leadership of these divisions.
Thank you. And I've gone over my time. I'm going to yield to the ranking member.
Thank you. So we can complete the answer to that question now. He asked about that relying on detailees as opposed to, as I understand it, relying on the expertise of the principals involved as opposed to detailees who had been sent over and getting their advice. Did you want to comment on that before I ask?
I thank you. The individuals in our divisions, whether it's economists, whether it's lawyers in these various divisions, work for the SEC. And there's rule writing shops in each of these groups, talented individuals. And we don't have detailees from outside the SEC. There are people in the SEC. What we do is each of those units internally find the best people to work on these projects. And they form teams between the Office of General Counsel, the economists, and they look at the legal authorities, they look at the market data, they look at the economics, and they make their best staff recommendations. And of course, ultimately, it's the 5 commissioners, and we form a consensus and put things out to public comment.
Thank you. Let me ask you generally, because the chairman has made a point of the increase that has been requested. And you indicated that you have some 40% growth in the market that you're looking at. Congress provided 400 additional slots. You have not expanded to that, and you're still in that process. Can you discuss what limiting SEC funding would do for the fairness of markets and what the real-world impact would be to investors, including individual retirement accounts?
I thank you. I think the real-world nature is that it comes back to human nature. Human nature is such that most people in the markets are good faith, do things well, but there's still some bad actors. And so we examine nearly 40,000 different registrants on a basis, and we do about 3,000 examinations a year, so you can see the math. We're not examining all of the registrants on a regular basis. We bring 700 or 800 enforcement actions a year, but the markets are so vast. So in terms of real people's lives, it's protecting them against fraud. It's protecting them against Ponzi schemes and the like. And so that's really the bread and butter of this agency, and reviewing filings, whether it's a mutual fund filing or other filings.
So that given the expansion of the market and the expansion of the participants, which is, I say, analogous to the IRS, who has a lot more taxpayers and a lot more complex tax questions to resolve. If you do not get the personnel that you want, there will be a lack of oversight and a lack of enforcement.
Yes, let me give you another statistic that we get between 2,000 and 4,000 tips, complaints, and referral a month, 25 to 40,000 a year. And so our dedicated staff has to sort of sort through that, be responsive to the public, see what's there, and then where appropriate, follow the facts and the law and try to get money back to the public, through disgorgements and penalties and the like, if the facts and the law deem that to be appropriate. And so less dedicated lawyers and investigators and economists in an agency like ours means less protection for the public.
And if there's less protection for the public, would it be reasonable to conclude that the public would have less confidence in participating in growing the capital markets?
I think it is, and I think to the chair's question, it's about capital formation and investors, because investor protection means more people are confident in a market. It means people raising money and in essence, can raise money cheaper because there's less of a premium for, misdeeds in a market.
Thank you. I yield back.
Mr. Moldenar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gensler, thank you for being with us today. The Office of Inspector General, October 22 report. You're very familiar with that, I understand.
Yes, I am in the chair, and I just chatted about it.
Okay. And the concerns raised by managers from the SEC's various divisions about the increased risks and difficulties managing resources due to the aggressive rulemaking agenda at the SEC. Are you familiar with that concern?
I've read it, yes, sir.
Okay. And you have had 11 commission rulemaking, had to reopen public comment periods for 11 proposed rules. Is that true?
I think we've actually reopened more. What we do from time to time is we reopen if new items come up. Sometimes new economic information comes up, we might reopen. Sometimes we reopen for other reasons, and I think it's actually more than 11 that we've reopened.
But anyways, you've had a pretty aggressive rulemaking.
Well, actually, let me just put this in context. My predecessor, Chair Clayton, during his 4-year tenure, did 64 final rules. We've put out publicly that we're looking at this 50 to 55 projects. I could go back to my fellow Chair, Mary Jo White, Chair Shapiro. Chair Shapiro probably set the record. She had way more than either Chair Clayton or what we're looking at.
Well, in the report, it talks about the significant attrition rate with senior officers and attorneys being the highest percentage lost. Talks about data entry issues in 91% of the job postings reviewed. The inability to hire individuals with rulemaking experience, what the chairman had mentioned. Dependency on detailees with little or no experience in rulemaking, potentially leading to more errors in decision-making. Limited time available to research and analyze these rules and their effect on other rules. Increased odds of litigation against the federal government and taxpayers. The inability to complete other core mission-related work due to rulemaking teams borrowing staff from other areas. And these appear to be things that have really bled into the entirety of the day-to-day life at the SEC. And it seems to highlight the need for effective resource management and prioritization in achieving organizational goals. And when you think about your mission, and I know you think about that every day, accurate data entry is essential to ensure that the decisions are made and affect U.S. financial markets are based on reliable and accurate information. And it just appears from this review by the Office of Inspector General that there is a lot lacking there. And it really brings to, questions when you increase rulemaking activities, you don't have the staff capable of doing these things. the explosion of data entry errors, it really raises questions and confidence in your ability to lead the organization. And I'm just asking if this aggressive rulemaking agenda has placed a strain on your staff. Are you concerned that the quality of the work proposed in final rules is slipping?
Sir, I am quite confident in the staff. We're in a very tight labor market. We're in a very, you all know this, we're in a very tight labor market, and the attorneys and the economists and the other folks at the SEC are sought after. They're deeply sought after by law firms and outside folks, but our turnover is consistent with what other agencies have been, and I also would say that our rulemaking agenda is actually consistent with what Chair Clayton was doing and other chairs were doing earlier. But do we look at each of the data entry pieces that you said and each of the parts of the Inspector General's report? You betcha that we look at that, and we benefit from having a robust Inspector General and give us good advice.
Well, it seems like it's more of a review and talking about areas that are really lacking. And I'm just wondering, do other SEC divisions rely on data entry in their cost-benefit analysis?
We look at data, and we absolutely do. We do cost-benefit analysis, or what's technically called efficiency, competition, and capital formation analysis in each one of our rules.
Well, I just wonder if you have that many data entry issues and the job posting, reviewed those, it just creates a question of kind of the capabilities and how solid the efforts are.
If I might just say, we spend about $380, $390 million a year on technology, and that's part of being in front of this committee. Is like we spend in a year what some large banks or investment advisors spend in a month. I mean, so we are trying diligently to make resources for cloud, for data security, for data analytics work within that part of our budget. And that's an important part as well that we could do better if we had more dollars for technology.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Mr. Cartwright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chair Gensler, I was listening to Ranking Member Hoyer's questioning of you, and forgive us, there was some whispering up here. It's not true that he's actually your godfather, is it?
We're going to keep that one a little quiet. But,
But seriously, I was listening to his questioning, and he was making some important points about confidence in the capital markets and how that flows from protection of the investors. Is that basically what you said?
absolutely, and I think it helps capital formation as well as investors because confidence and trust underlies any financial system.
Part of protecting investors starts at the point of sale with the broker-dealers. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
So what we have is the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, FINRA, that is charged with that, and people go to arbitration put together by FINRA. The SEC is tasked with conducting oversight of FINRA. Am I correct in that?
That's correct, sir.
And certainly ensuring that it acts in the public interest for the protection of investors and in furtherance of the purposes of the securities laws. That's obviously in the code. And if the SEC finds that FINRA has failed to protect investors, the SEC may add to or amend FINRA's rule book or compel changes. And you're aware of that, Chair Gensler.
Yes, we got those authorities way back in the 1930s.
Okay. FINRA has the problem of uncollected awards. You're familiar with that problem, I take it.
Well, at a general matter, I'm familiar with it.
Right. It does, and in fact, the problem is that, well, it started in a 2000 report from a nonpartisan GAO, and I do request unanimous consent to enter this report into the record, Mr. Chair.
Without objection.
Okay. In 2000, the GAO found that a large percent of arbitration awards from 1998 went entirely unpaid by broker-dealers, and that an additional amount were only partially paid. GAO at that time in 2000 recommended that the self-regulatory organizations, quote, develop procedures addressing the problem of unpaid awards caused by failed broker-dealers. But a generation later, up to now, FINRA has not established any such procedures. In fact, FINRA's data show that nearly $200 million in awards went uncollected between 2012 and 2016. And even now, the latest information show that between 2017 and 21, $94 million in arbitration awards went uncollected. And so the question is, will the SEC become more active in investigating this problem and laying down the law with FINRA to make them actually make changes so that by definitions, these are meritorious claims brought by investors who were in some fashion fleeced by broker-dealers and didn't get their awards paid. Will you undertake to put the hammer down on FINRA, as you are charged to do in the statute, so that they change their procedures and end this injustice?
So our oversight of the FINRA, as you said, is a really important part of our capital markets. It's a self-regulatory organization that oversees and investigates and registers broker-dealers. And part of that is, of course, this matter that you've just raised through our examination function and our Division of Trading and Markets. And I know that they've already had discussions. We'll continue to highlight the importance of this, the importance that whether it's through arbitration or through the courts, that when somebody is awarded disgorgement and penalties and so forth, that they're paid. I would note that sometimes those broker-dealers are out of business, and so there's some of that goes on too. But I couldn't concur with you more that it's important for the confidence of investors that if they're duly awarded something because of their claim.
We agree then, Chair Gensler, and will you undertake to make that more of a priority with the SEC?
I think it already is a priority, but I will commit to you that I will check with the staff and make sure that they understand the importance of this issue.
Perfect. Thank you. Yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Henson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Ranking Member Hoyer. And thank you, Chair Gensler, for appearing before our committee today. Iowans care about accountability. They care about focus on mission, jurisdiction, and you already mentioned congressional mandate for the SEC in an earlier answer. And so I think, to put it bluntly, we've seen you sprint outside of your congressional jurisdiction, specifically when it comes to the climate disclosure rule. I see it as a true weaponization of the department, and Iowa farmers, Iowa businesses, Iowa workers see it that way too, and I think it's high time that you reel it in. That's what I'm here to tell you today on behalf of my constituents. And I dug into the place where you say in statutory authority that you're citing 10 different sections of the Exchange or Securities Act in your proposal. And so my first question to you today is, where in here specifically did Congress give you the statutory authority, the jurisdiction to enact this climate rule?
I thank you for asking it. So our remit, all the way back from the 1930s, is to ensure that investors get to decide based on full, fair, and truthful disclosure.
I'm asking you specifically about where your statutory authority is in Section 710, 19A, 28 of the Securities Act, Sections 3B, 12, 13, 15, 23A, and 36 of the Exchange Act. Can you cite where it gives you the actual authority? Because I went through all these sections, and nowhere does it say climate, emissions, or greenhouse gas.
But what it does say is that a company, when it's offering securities and offering a sale of security to the public, that the public gets the description of the business, the material information, and that they can't mislead the public. And what's happening now is there's hundreds, if not well over 1,000 companies today in the markets that are putting out disclosures about climate risk. And there's investors that are relying on those disclosures. And all we're doing, we're not with all respect, we are merit neutral. And that's an important part of our capital markets. We are
Well, I think
merit
Congress
neutral.
really needs to
We're
be-
trying to bring consistency and comparability to those disclosures.
Well, it's very clear that in these sections, it is not explicit as far as your lane is concerned there. And that's when I say it's time to reel it in. You need to be explicit about where your authority is. And I don't see that in these sections of code that you reference. And I'm also very concerned by the expansive reporting requirements for Scope 3, greenhouse gas emissions, the devastating impact that that would have for Iowa farmers, because under this rule, you look at large corporations, they have teams of attorneys that can help them comply. Iowa farmers don't have that. So I'm very concerned about the precedent that's being set here with these policies and what you're asking for here. So can you give me some examples of where the commission has asked for this type of non-financial information to be disclosed in the past?
So our remit is just over the public companies, the 7,000 or 8,000 companies. It's not the farmers that you're referencing. So that's probably, we share that view. And what this is about is the disclosures that the public companies are making, and we put out a proposal about trying to bring consistency to that. We heard a lot of comments back. So-called Scope 3 disclosures that you reference is one of the handful, but important handful of areas where people, public comment, we got 15,000 comments, came to us. 49 different farm bureaus came
Well,
to
I
us.
understand
And
about
so
the public
I think
feedback,
that,
but
I
is there
think that,
precedent for this? That's what I'm asking, is there any point in time where you can cite anything precedent-wise where you've required this amount of disclosure?
it's just to bring consistency to the disclosure they're already making, but as it relates to this issue about, there's no intent or focus of the Securities and Exchange Commission to ask for disclosures from private sector farmers in Iowa or in any of your states.
Well, what I'm hearing here is that this is unprecedented in your answer because you're not mentioning anything precedented, and I do believe that the focus of your agency should be on fraud, detecting Ponzi schemes, not on enacting a climate agenda, which again, I believe exceeds your statutory authority here. Thank you, sir. I yield back.
Mr. Pocan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Ranking Member. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for being with us. First off, just on a budget question, do you right now, with your current budget, have adequate resources to investigate emerging cryptocurrency issues?
We're stretched thin, sir. This is a field, it's small compared to our vast $100 trillion capital markets, but it's a field that has a significant amount of non-compliance in it without prejudging any one token or one platform. We've increased our resources there, but we could always use more.
Yeah, just with the volatility, I mean, talk about confidence in markets, I think this is one area I'm concerned when some in the Republican leadership have talked about a cut going back to 2022 levels, or this morning, Mr. Harris actually said pre-COVID levels going back even more years, what impact that could have when there are emerging issues that you're going to need resources for. So thank you for that answer. Also, we've been reminded recently very clearly why Congress passed strong banking regulations like the Dodd-Frank law and why it's a mistake in 2018 to roll back some of those protections. We can likely agree that mismanagement and greed on the part of the executives at the Silicon Valley Bank led them to make some risky decisions that endangered their customers. I'm particularly concerned about Section 956 of Dodd-Frank, which required a number of financial regulators, including the SEC, to set guidelines around responsible compensation incentives for bank executives and even prohibit compensation structures that drive executives to engage in risky behavior that may gain their shareholders bigger profits, but also endanger the broader economy. So to you and the Commission's credit, the SEC is the only regulator that has even attempted to fulfill this requirement that was passed into law a dozen years ago, but the rulemaking was never finished. Chair Gensler, do you plan on tackling these reckless and greedy incentives by having the SEC pursue a rulemaking process on this long overdue requirement?
Yes.
Great. Glad to hear that. Because I think in talking about confidence in markets, this is something clearly front of mind for a lot of people. Let me talk to you a little bit about congressional insider training. I know that New York Times recently said 18% of lawmakers or their family members bought or sold financial assets over a 3-year span. And, again, for confidence in Congress, this isn't even in the markets. I know we have the 2012 Stock Act that allows members to buy and sell individual stocks, provided that they don't trade on inside information and disclose transactions over $1,000 within 45 days. There's been bills introduced to change that, to make it so that we can't buy individual stock. And I'll tell you, I'm not one of the millionaires around here, so I don't buy a lot of individual stock anyway, but I do get a lot of insider information almost on a weekly basis from companies and people that come in because of the access to people that talk to members of Congress. How does the SEC conduct oversight on congressional trading, and how is a determination made if they believe a member is violating the Stock Act, and how would you define insider information?
A lot of questions there, but we follow the facts and the law. And so insider information, material, non-public information that a company has that the public doesn't have. It's not yet disclosed in their press releases, their filings, and the like, is not meant to be traded upon by those insiders or people they share that information with, whether it's the broad public or a member of Congress. And so we just follow the facts and the law, and we keep it confidential if we have an investigation, as we would whether it's somebody in the broad public or, of course, a member of Congress.
In the minute I have left, just a quick question. I think a lot of us are concerned whether or not we're going to lift the debt ceiling and what could happen to markets. As someone who's watching markets and concerned about faith in markets, are you concerned, and if you're concerned, why, in case we don't lift the debt ceiling, what that could impact that could have?
Well, it would be historic, of course, and it would be, in terms of trust, we were talking about trust and confidence in capital markets. The capital markets themselves would take a real hit. We have the gold standard of capital markets around the globe, and part of that is at the base is the U.S. Treasury market. This $24 trillion, about a quarter of our capital markets, it's called risk-free, but you'd add a great deal of uncertainty, and it'd be, frankly, one heck of a shock to the capital markets.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield back.
Mr. Cloud.
Thank you, Chair, Ranking Member, and thank you, Chair, for being here today. I wanted to continue on with the line of questioning Ms. Henson and other colleagues have had. The Securities Act of 1933 and the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, I'm sure you're aware, defines what is your role and what the Commission's role is. You'd agree?
Yes, very important. It's also the 1940 Acts on investment advisors,
Right.
investment companies.
And of course, the job of the executive branch is to execute the laws, not create the laws. And we also have the Anti-Deficiency Act that ensures that federal employees don't use federal resources to do things that they are not authorized and appropriated to do. I brought them with me today, the Securities Exchange Act of 1933, and of course we have 1934 right here. Are you aware of how many times, of course, we want good governance? We're all concerned right now. When I talk to banks, they're really concerned about the ESG initiatives that are being forced. We want good governance, but you want to guess how many times climate appears in these documents?
I understand the question. It's about
It's
full,
zero.
fair, and truthful disclosure
It's
about
zero.
a business.
You know how many times the word social appears? It's also zero. Right now, the SEC is currently working on a rule that would require companies to report on the cost of climate change for their businesses above a certain threshold. It's been talked about scope 3, and you're saying that that's not going to hurt farmers, but the thing is when a business is trying to get a loan, but they can't get a loan until they report on the next person in the supply chain who has to report on the next person in the supply chain, it does get down to the farmers. And so, I'm really concerned about mission creep, and, it's really hard to see where the SEC and certainly you as chair would have any sort of authority to be enacting these things. And I would just keep in light of that the Democratic-led House last term passed H.R. 1187 to try to require the collection of this kind of information. It passed by one vote with a lot of wrangling from Democratic leadership, Speaker Pelosi at the time, had to actually come down and vote herself to give them that one vote to pass, and it would mandate public companies disclose climate information. My point is it didn't pass. It wasn't taken up in the Senate, and therefore is not law, and therefore there is no authority to collect this kind of information. Are you aware of West Virginia versus EPA?
It's a Supreme Court case of last year, yes, very so.
Right. There are a number of findings in that, but one of them, the court held that an administrative agency has no power to make decisions on major questions unless Congress clearly gave it such authority. And as Ms. Henson pointed out, you don't have clear authority. You may be trying to skew authority or find authorities in law somewhere to do it, but you do not have clear authority to implement climate-related data gathering on people participating in our markets. And it's very concerning, and I would just point out, like, we watched bank failures happen, and a lot of it happened because regulators were asleep at the wheel. At the same time, we see unauthorized rulemaking going on, and it's very concerning. And I would point out to the chair's comments, you're asking for more employees to do your job, but then it seems like some are tasked doing something that you do not have the authority to do. And so, you know, we're trying to provide efficient government. We want you to do your core functions. You're needed. No one's debating that. You need to have funding to do your core functions. But I'm concerned about the argument for plussing up employees when you have employees tasked doing stuff they have no authority to do. And it's placing a burden on the American people. And it's trying to enforce policy that has not passed Congress. And so could you speak to your, will you retask your employees? If you're asking for more employees, will you retask the ones you have working on these sorts of things to do what is their actually authorized core functions?
So let me speak to the climate role and to the employees. On the employees, most of the staff we're asking for and the funding is about our core, and the growth is in exams, enforcement, technology, and disclosure review is the bulk. But in terms of the climate role, if I could, if you wish, it really is authorized by our statutes, and what we're doing is we're hearing from the public about where we potentially should look at economics, look at authority. We're aware of this Supreme Court case that you referenced, and we do everything we do within the authorities as interpreted by the courts, and that's an important.
I would remind you
that's
that
an important,
the public opinion flows through the representatives of Congress, and then we tell you what the public are thinking, and then you go and do it. And I'm out of time, so I'll yield back to the chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Bishop.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Mr. Gensler. And I'd like to follow up on that line of questioning. The environmental, social, and governance data that is up for disclosure and up for discussion today, is that consistent? Isn't that consistent with your mission to protect investors, to maintain fair, orderly, and efficient markets, and to facilitate capital markets? Is that data, would that data be beneficial to investors to have, or would it be harmful to investors not to have it in your capacity as a regulator?
To answer your question and the other Representative Cloud's question, right now today, hundreds, if not over 1,000 companies are making such disclosures about climate risk. And so our role is not only to help bring consistency, but to make sure that folks aren't misleading the public about these disclosures, because investors, and we heard from 15,000 comments, thousands of investors wrote in and said, we currently use this information. We would benefit to ensure that it's at least consistent and not misleading. That helps capital formation. That helps investors, and it helps regardless of whether you're pro-green or pro, you want to invest against green.
So it's consistent with your obligation.
It's consistent with what Congress authorities and mission that we have.
Thank you. Chair Gensler, for purposes of cryptocurrency, you have the unique experience of chairing both the Commodities Future Trading Commission and the Securities Exchange Commission. It's my understanding that cryptocurrency and the underlying blockchain technology typically defy categorization as either a security or a commodity because, quite frankly, they are neither. You understand more than most people the interplay between both commissions and the extent of their jurisdictions. With that in mind, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the regulation of the cryptocurrency market, and in particular, how you ensure that consumers are protected from fraudulent and predatory activity. And can you elaborate on what you think the SEC's role is when it comes to regulating the crypto market? And can you also follow that up by saying whether the SEC has any plans to issue a rule clarifying how securities law applies to digital assets?
At its core, when Congress set up the SEC, it was about protecting the investing public and thus the capital formation on the other side with this disclosure. And it was about if somebody's raising money and the public is giving them money based on their efforts. The Supreme Court in 1946 actually defined it, and then Thurgood Marshall wrote it so beautifully a few decades later. It was Congress painted with a broad brush to protect the investing public when the investing public is basically investing or betting on a group of entrepreneurs. Now, crypto tokens, without prejudging any one of them, you can look almost on nearly most of them, I'm not going to say a number, and you can find a group of entrepreneurs with a Twitter site, with a website, with individuals, and I bet that most of you are not visited by decentralized, non-existent management. If you're going to get a meeting with somebody from crypto tokens, there's a human, there's a group of entrepreneurs, or they're paying a lobbyist, or they're paying a lawyer to meet with you. There's some, and the public is basically giving up their hard-earned dollars to invest in that token, and that token entrepreneur should give them full, fair, and truthful disclosure. That's the core. So frankly, of the 10 or 12,000 tokens, there are very few that don't have a group of entrepreneurs in the middle that the public's counting on. So those are securities, sir, under the securities law.
So are you going to issue regulations?
The regulations actually already exist, sir. They're called the securities regulation. And so they're disclosure regulations for when somebody tries to raise money from the public. They're exchange, the storefronts in this business, the storefronts call themselves either crypto exchanges or crypto lending platforms. But those storefronts should come into compliance. And our goal is the investor protection and capital formation we've talked about earlier. But even in the crypto space, they should come into compliance and they should disaggregate. Right now, they're commingling with, it's rife with conflicts that they're taking investors' funds and trading against the investors. And they're saying, catch us if you can. That's the nature of this field right now. Or, excuse me, we're offshore. Try to find us if we're offshore. And I've been around finance for 40 plus years. And there's, by and large, most folks are trying to comply with the laws as Congress writes them and so forth. But this is a field that at its core is sort of, it's got a lot of non-compliance and it's with the anti-money laundering laws and not just the securities laws.
Mr. Chairman, would you indulge me one quick question?
Chair will indulge you. Mr. Bishop, only because your office is right across the street from mine. Yes.
Thank you, sir. We were approached, members of Congress were approached with the proposition that we needed to regulate it by people who are in that offshore area. I'm trying to understand how the regulation would have helped those people in that offshore area who now seem to be accused with wrongdoing.
Well, whether it's the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, which I was honored to chair, and I love that agency, or the Securities and Exchange Commission, both of us oversee parts of the market, and it is, if you're touching U.S. investors, selling these tokens to U.S. investors, then you come under either the securities laws or the laws over the Commodity Futures Trading Commission.
Mr. Carl.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good to see you, sir.
You're doing a great job so far. You're staying above water. Let me read this to you, though, because I'm a little confused. Congresswoman Henson and Cloud almost took all my thunder, and I almost didn't have anything to ask you, so I'm scratching around here. But, you know, the primary purpose of the SEC is to enforce the law against market manipulation, easy for you to say. Its three-part mission is protect investors, maintain fair, orderly, and efficient markets, and facilitate capital formation. What in the world has that got to do with admissions? Before you answer that, I'm a little confused. Let me be a little sarcastic. I got a friend of mine in the coffee business. If I want to know how all these 7,000 companies, what kind of coffee they use, can I get a question put on there to ask what kind of coffee they use so I can give it back to my coffee producer? Doesn't sound fair to me. So why is the SEC getting involved in admissions with this climate change? And I'm not a fan of it. I've not hidden that. For the last 3 days, I've been preaching from the highest rock. We can't afford the direction we're going. We cannot afford everything we're doing in this. Now you have brought your very important group into this admission, asking questions for whom? 10,000 people that wrote in? Maybe? You said 10,000? How many people do you represent? 354 million, you said? So can I find out what kind of coffee they're making?
It really comes down to this, and it's a good question, and Representative Cloud and Hinson asked really good questions too.
Yeah.
It's a much narrower remit. We're not merit-based. It's not about what type of coffee you was it drink.
Yeah.
It's that investors today around the globe, thinking about the value of those investments that they make, are taking into consideration climate risk. And companies today are already making disclosures. Now, you could say, well, we shouldn't be involved, but there are already hundreds of companies making disclosures about their greenhouse gas emissions.
And that's their personal choice to do that. I'm not arguing. I'm talking about your rules and your regulations that you're enforcing.
So our role is to ensure that those disclosures, to the extent there's this concept of materiality as well, but those disclosures that investors are getting are not misleading those investors, and that those investors are getting full, fair, and truthful disclosures.
Yeah, I really question your motive there. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to push back on that one. Let me ask you this then. Recently, you said the Scope 3 admissions regulations aren't well developed. I believe you then said you didn't want to get ahead of the process when you were asked about getting rid of these regulations. Can you quickly tell me if they are planning to get rid of this Scope 3 regulations?
Again, I don't want to prejudge. I'm a member of a 5-member commission. It's how we all deliberate and what staff recommendations
What's your
come
personal
up.
opinion?
But in terms of the comments that we've received, there's a handful of areas. They're well known, all these comments are public, but this area of greenhouse gas emissions of a company, Scope 1 and Scope 2 is their electricity purchases. There was much more support in the comment file, both from investors and issuers, than there was for so-called Scope 3, which relates to the supply chain. And it's not as well developed. We said this, I said this a year and a half ago. We took a layered approach. Even in their proposal, we said that that would only be done by fewer companies and have a big sort of a safe harbor, but we're considering what to do there.
When you
because
gonna have
we
an-
really
when you
did
gonna have
get a
an
lot
answer
of
on this?
comments about
I'm sorry, I'm
this.
running out of time. When you going to have an answer on that? A yes or no?
I don't want to prejudge. Staff is working through.
right.
We've never had a comment file as big as this. On average, it takes us 12 to 15 months from a proposal to when we finish
Yeah,
a
you know,
rule.
the idea of forcing these companies to figure out how much they calculated in their disclosure carbon emissions produced by themselves, as well as all their vendors, partners, and suppliers, is about as anti-business as I've heard in a long time. And given your background, you think you'd be a little more business friendly. You know, that, quite honestly, that it goes against everything that your bio that I actually read, because this is very, very unbusiness friendly. And we're in the business to help and assist companies to produce jobs, to produce a product, to stimulate this environment so it creates taxes, so it pays bills to keep the air conditioner on in this room. So why do we want to just, and I'm out of time, but I'll make this last statement. Why don't we want to just keep sticking it to the businesses and just keep piling on regulations when all we need to do is leave them alone? There's enough people checking their admission. We don't need the SEC doing the same thing.
I concur with you. That's not our role. Our role is
Well, then
just
why
to
do we
help.
do it?
So it's those raising money from the public, those companies raising money from the public are currently making disclosures, and it's trying to make consistency. It's also trying to sort of tamp down greenwashing, if you've heard that phrase as well. It's trying to bring some consistency to those disclosures, and also based upon the comments that are coming in to sort through. But we literally have hundreds of public companies that are supportive of pieces of this role, and they say, no, over here,
They're
could you
supportive,
adjust
sir,
this?
because they know they're getting pressure on them to do this. That's the reason they're doing it. They don't want any more regulations either. So, Mr. Chairman, I return my time. Thank you.
Ms. Torres.
Mr. Chairman, can I have 1 second?
Ms. Torres, if you would pause for just a moment. Now, I'll yield to the ranking member.
I thank you. I want to get this straight. What the SEC is to do is to make sure that representations being made by those sellers of assets or companies or trying to raise capital are accurate. That's your role.
Absolutely, full, fair, and truthful.
What you are saying is that 800, 900, 1,000 companies have chosen to make a representation based upon climate or other factors. That you have not required that. Now, there was statute, as that Mr. Cloud, I believe, pointed out, that failed, but you have not required that. But what I understand you're saying is, once that a company makes a representation, it is your responsibility to make sure that that representation is accurate and true. Is that what you're saying?
That is accurate, but it goes further than that, because we put out a proposal that would, in many of the disclosures are exactly what you say, but we did put out something that if it was, for instance, this scope 3 that we were talking about, our proposal, we don't know where we'll end up, but if it was material to the, in essence, to the business, if it was material to the investors, that you had some mandatory disclosure. And I think that's probably part of this discussion.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Torres.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for allowing this flow of information to continue, even though we are literally under the clock. Thank you for coming to our subcommittee, Chair Gensler. You know, I understand that my colleagues disagree with your work on climate disclosures. My region, the state that I come from, is home to 40 million people. We know that climate change is leading to an increase in devastating fires, major floods with this rainstorms that we've had, tornado warnings. We don't know what a tornado is in California. We know all about earthquakes, but not about tornadoes. In most cases, well, in all cases, as property owners are trying to renew their fire insurance to fulfill the commitment that they have made to the bank when they applied for a mortgage loan. In the last 5 years, our mortgages, our fire insurance has doubled in some years and has gone up at least 10 to 20% in other years. It is incredible what is happening. My point is that corporate America knows that climate change is real. Contrary to what some of us may want to believe, they are making real business decisions that impact the people that I represent. We must ensure that communities like mine are getting the information that they need in order to make financial decisions in light of climate change. So I urge you to continue to provide this information because it is critical, at the very least, for the 40 million people in my home state of California. I want to go back to the issues with Silicon Valley Bank. Can you update us on, I know that you are in the midst of an investigation, but will there be an after action report to find any lessons learned and implement them moving forward as to what you can do? What more can you do to ensure that we try to avoid another chaotic event?
Though I can't speak to any particular investigation or any
I'm not
possible
asking
enforcement.
that. Yeah.
But when market events occur, sort of the playbook, if you wish, what we look at is what are the disclosures companies have made? We've had a lot of discussion about disclosures, but were they truthful? Were they accurate and full and fair? We look at to the extent we can, was there any inside trading material, non-public information? We look at whether there was any market manipulation. These are the things that we look at in our enforcement regime. And we also look at more broadly are there lessons learned to help make the system more resilient? There's always risk in capital markets. That's part of the dynamism of capitalism. But it's also ensuring that those risks don't spill out to, regular folks. And let's us not forget that in 2008, 8 to 10 million people lost their jobs. So part of an agency like ours is to try to look at lessons learned as their resiliency in the capital markets around broker-dealers and asset managers and the like.
In 2009, that many more people lost their homes to foreclosure because of terrible bank investments that they were investing against, the people that they were mortgaging. So with the cuts, I know that you oversee so many programs. You have had, numerous comments online, more than you've ever had over the last 5 years. What will a 30% cut across the board do to you?
I hope we're not talking about that, Congresswoman.
We have to talk about that because it is on the table as it relates to the majority's proposal.
Look, I think the investing public would be shortchanged, and the capital formation. The companies that want to do right by their investors and raise money, that the investing public wouldn't have as much trust in those capital markets. I think that what we do as an agency on a day-to-day basis is responsive to the world's gold standard of capital markets.
Thank you, and I yield back.
Mr. Siscomani.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Chair Gensler, for coming before the committee today. As the new guy in this table, I'm gonna, and after listening to my colleagues here discuss really the scope and the depth of the SEC's rulemaking authority, I'm gonna start a little broader just to get a better understanding of some questions that I have. Would you mind outlining for the subcommittee how much funding goes towards the activities related to each individual part of the SEC's core mission of protecting investors, free markets, and capital formation? And additionally, how many FTEs are associated with each one of those missions?
It's a good question. They're so intertwined. I mean, we promote capital formation by also protecting investors. We promote both by having the markets in the middle more competitive, more transparent. So we don't keep our books and records and separate out the three missions because they complement each other, especially I think of the first two, the capital formation investors or investors in capital formation, those, and so we don't, I like your question, but we don't keep our books that way because they're so intertwined, really.
So a follow-up on that, on the spending then. So how much of the budget for the SEC on the request and on the increase requested is dedicated to enforcement and examinations?
So a little over half our staff is enforcement and examination, and well in excess of half of the growth. I'm just thinking of the 170 more folks, I think about 100 come from exams, enforcement, technology to support that. But if I'm off, we should come back to you.
Yeah, I would love to get some details on that, and even if it can get a little muddy on my first question regarding a range of where the resources are being put. When I look at those three core missions, I would help me get an idea of where the majority of the efforts are going towards, especially if half the staff or more is going towards the enforcement side and the examinations. In your fiscal year 2024 budget request, the SEC is asking for elevated FTE levels seemingly across the board. And can you please outline again, in the same vein of my questioning, which divisions will see the largest growth of FTEs and why?
The largest growth, which I think was actually in the, we put a little chart in the document, but let me just reference it so I'm not mistaken. But the largest growth was, again, it's in enforcement and in exams, but third would probably be, just want to make sure, it's actually the Division of Economic Risk Analysis is probably third.
Mm-hmm.
No, I apologize. Our Division of Corporate Finance that reviews the filings of public companies is third, and then the Division of Economic Risk Analysis.
Thank you. I have about a minute and a half left. I'll ask you one more question. We had Secretary Yellen here before the subcommittee last week, and I asked about how the system of as a whole is reacting to Silicon Valley Bank. And so Chair Gensler, as a voting member of the Financial Stability Oversight Council, did the SEC identify warning signs regarding the banks that recently experienced trouble when it came to rising interest rates, and why or why not?
So the Financial Stability Oversight Council, in its 22 annual report, so late last year, identified interest rate risk as an important risk in the financial system and within banks. There was a whole section in the report. And when interest rates rise, the value of securities and loans can fall. And so that puts pressure on the people holding those debt securities. And so it was identified, as I say, late in 2022 in our annual report.
Mr. Chair, I yield back. Thank you.
Mr. Joyce.
Thank you, Chair. Chair Gensler, it's nice to see you again.
Good to see you, sir.
I could tell from the questions of my colleagues that this ESG question is still out there and remains ready to ripen. But I want to ask you, do you support the double materiality standard which has been adopted by the Europeans in their corporate sustainability reporting directive?
Congress's mandate to us is about investors, and it's really about just what is material to an investor making an investment decision, and those decisions are buying or selling or voting a proxy, and that's our remit, and it doesn't go further, and that's all we're looking at. So that's what some people would call single materiality.
Well, the Europeans now believe that not only material risks should be disclosed by public firms, but also risks posed by the firm's operations to society and the environment should be disclosed. What kind of information, if any, that progressive ESG advocates demand from public companies do you believe may not fit within the materiality standard or constitute a real risk?
Well, it's really about what investors, and we've heard from a remarkable number of investors about they're looking at as climate risk in terms of their investment decision, and that's that's the extent of our remit, which is different, as you said, than in Europe. And it's really about what climate risk might mean to their revenues, their profits, their suppliers, their competitors, what legislative bodies around the world, not just here in the U.S., might do to change their business and requirements. So that's what investors have told us. It's really about what's going to be the effect on the future financials and operations and competitive landscape and supply side of these businesses.
Well, the Appropriation Committee is serious about ensuring funds provided the SEC will be used to carry out the agency's mission as directed by Congress. Last year, we had some discussion on the request for funding that you had with cryptocurrency. I guess that didn't go so well, but I'm concerned that the high volume of new rulemaking has prevented the SEC from fulfilling its basic due diligence obligations. For example, the agency's proposed rule requiring increased cybersecurity disclosures does not consider existing requirements established by Congress and agencies that specialize in cybersecurity, like CISA. As the chairman of the Homeland Security Appropriations Subcommittee, I'm concerned that public reporting on cyber practice will provide a roadmap for bad actors. Investors won't be protected by this rule if the firms they invest in are harmed. Are you working with CISA to ensure the SEC's required disclosures don't reveal sensitive information to cyber criminals?
We've had a good dialogue with Jen Easterly and her team. She's the head of CISA.
Oh, I know. She was in before our committee just this week, so that's why.
And our remit, again, and we had this discussion about climate, it's really just investors making investment decisions. So if a cyber incident happened at a company and hypothetically tens of millions of client files have been stolen or hacked or something, is that material to the company, sort of in a sense like a factory were to burn down, but instead 100 million files are taken or something? Is that material? And then investors getting that information. We did put a proposal out, but it's a proposal about summary information. It's the information that would be material to investors, not the details of how the breach happened or so forth.
But in order to accumulate that, they're going to have to create a document that somehow a bad actor may find, correct?
Well, they also have to sort of accumulate it for their board of directors and discuss it with their board of directors. And if they're discussing it with their senior leadership and their board, then to let their owners, the owners of the company, the investors, understand if, and our proposal was about material incidents.
I understand. I understand I only have 40 seconds left or now in decreasing. But I just want to follow up, too, on what they were talking about, the small business. You and I had this exchange last year, and you said it was only the publicly held companies. Yet, in some of the comments I received from NFIB indicate that they're still concerned that somehow this is going to affect the small businesses, or as my colleague brought up, the farmers and other ones. Have you worked on trying to make sure they're precluded from that requirement? Because obviously they're not. They don't have the law firms and the people necessary to report this on a daily basis.
Again, without prejudging what staff recommendations will be or my fellow commissioners, I think that this has been an important exchange here today, but also with the American public has weighed in as to we oversee the disclosures of these 7,000 or so public companies, not other companies that are not. And so sorting through some of these comments is part of what the staff is thinking through.
But again, that would eliminate the mom and pops who are doing business with those publicly held companies because they fall in that same chain. But I'm out of time, and I'll give you 30 seconds extra that I took out. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We're going to do a quick round two. I know Steeny's group, for the most part, has left, but we've got several of our members remaining. Let me go back. I'm going to close out my last question on the academics, and I got your answer, and I understand that, but you know, academics that want to serve, that's a noble thing, and I'm grateful for that, but I certainly would think that we should be incorporating academics that have some real-world experience. That would be my ultimate goal, were I sitting in your seat. I want to follow up on what Mr. Joyce was just talking about, Scope 3 notwithstanding. The SEC does an evaluation, an economic analysis of rulemaking procedures. Do the down-the-chain costs, are they considered? I mean, there are, particularly as it relates to the climate rule, this has a potential significant effect on small and medium-sized businesses that are part of that whole supply chain. And in my opinion, these costs are large and may not have had the opportunity to comment. So your response to that?
If I can, with your permission, the heads of our divisions of investment management, trading and markets, and corporate finance have served their public well, but also have real-world experience. The heads of investment management and corporate finance are leading lawyers. Yes, they were at academia, but they were also, one of them was at a big law firm before he was in academia. I mean, they really are true experts on investment law and on corporate finance disclosure law. Our head of trading and markets is one of the leading people on what's called micro market structure, but thinking about and really understanding how the details of a market work. And what we're trying to do on our treasury market reforms and equity market reforms and the like are so incumbent to, again, promote capital formation and investors by trying to get more efficiency in the middle for the investing public. So again, sir, I think they have very real-world economic experience. We're often told at the SEC to do our economics right, to have a world-class economist heading our Division of Economic Risk Analysis and Trading and Markets.
All right,
I like going into battle
let's
with
move to
these
the
folks.
impact on small business.
So on small business, again, in the discussion, we look at the impact on small business across all our rule writing, but in terms of this climate disclosure, again, we're looking at that because it's really about, our remit's just about those companies that are publicly filing, publicly raising money, and their climate risk disclosures.
We've got a very diversified economy. We got a $20 trillion plus economy. These disclosures, and you mentioned the consistent, across this diversified economy. These disclosures are different from company to company, are they not?
They can be, because some companies are in different sectors and so forth.
Well, I guess my question then would be, don't the companies know a lot more about their risks than a government agency like the SEC? I mean, would that not be the case?
What we lay out is rules, and we have for decades, like on material risk. We laid a rule out in the 1970s to disclose your material risks. We also, in the 1970s, laid out rules about environmental disclosures. What's come along is investors now are getting a lot of disclosures about climate risk, and as we were chatting with Representative Hoyer, that they're already making these disclosures, and trying to bring consistency to that helps investors make their decisions, and it also helps the companies as well to have some consistency.
I just guess my point is that in your search for consistency, that the SEC is becoming judge and jury over which risks are important and which risks are not, and that's the basis of my argument. And I'm going to, if my team will indulge me here for a minute, I wanted to, let me just do my data security and CAT question. I'll submit for the record because I am out of time, and I want to be fair to all of the other members. I want to be fair to you too with your time. Thank you so much, and I'll yield back to the ranking member.
I continue to struggle about the chicken and the egg here, but I'll pursue that later because I'm not sure I have as deep an understanding, because it could well be a problem. On the other hand, the persons who determine whether or not there is a risk or that they are willing to take are the investors, based upon the information that is disclosed, which you have the responsibility to make sure is accurate information. Now, I understand there's a process underway in which there would be a more active, positive, or some would say not positive, step that the SEC would be taking to require certain disclosures on energy or climate or actions. Am I accurate so far?
That's correct, and also there was a part of it that we proposed that it be put in the annual reports rather than just on your websites and other reports.
Okay. So the concern is that we're making that a requirement. And as I understand the concerns being raised by some of my colleagues is that is beyond the scope of your authority to do.
Well,
That
we
seems to
think
be
it's
their premise.
let me say, we think it is within our authority. We've had mandatory disclosures about material risks to the business since the 1970s. We've had mandatory disclosures about management discussion and analysis since going back again 50 to 60 years. We've had mandatory disclosures about other environmental issues going back 50 years. So we do think that it's within our authority. But in this space, in this climate risk disclosure, most of what we've done, not all of it, is about if you make a disclosure, for instance, about your scenario plan, or if you make a disclosure about your targets.
Let me stop you there.
Make it
The
accurate.
implication of if you make is that the company makes a determination whether or not they want to make such a disclosure, clearly with the interest of encouraging greater investment. Your role at that point in time is assuring that that is accurate information that's being put forward.
Yes, or not material misleading in the words of the statute, but there are parts of it that we proposed were mandatory, particularly around what's called Scope 1 and Scope 2 greenhouse gas. And then in Scope 3, we took a narrower remit and just said it was if material.
All right, I'm going to look into that further because I want to understand my colleagues' real concern to see whether I share their view that it may have effect on small enterprises which do not have the ability to respond to that, or may be implicated by association, if you will.
If I can help the member out, most of those comments by your colleagues and the investing public is around what is called so-called Scope 3, the suppliers and customers of a business, and what are their greenhouse gas emissions. And that discussion is an ongoing one by the staff and the commissioners at the SEC, because we did get a lot of feedback on that.
So that is not a resolved question at this point in time.
It was proposed, but you're right, nothing's resolved really in a proposal, adoptions or, when that happens.
Last question, which I know is not your direct responsibility, but I'm interested in your thoughts on it. To what extent did the reduction in the level of capital reserves that was passed under the last administration, in your opinion, did it have on the failure of the SBB bank, SBB?
I'm sorry, sir. Are you talking about the law that was passed in 2018?
2018, yes. To what effect, if any, do you think that had on the failure?
I think it'd be better for me to leave some of those questions to the banking regulators. I know they're going to be reporting come May on that. It's probably a matter of public record that I was not supportive of that legislative initiative back in 2018.
Why?
I thought at the time, and I have to remember the letter I wrote, but I thought at the time that there was a risk of correlation, that even these banks that are in this, I think it was raising the limit from 50 billion to a higher number, but that these banks, that there could be a correlation in the market. There was also some provisions about custodial banks and foreign banks, as I recall, that I raised some questions about.
I'll pursue that further. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Molinar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your time. You've been very generous with your time. I'm trying to get a better understanding of kind of how you view this role. The way I hear you, it's almost like you feel that you're providing a service to the businesses, the public companies, service to the investors, I should say, by vetting whether the company's statements on climate are accurate, and you view that as a key role for the agency.
I think Congress set us up that key role is that disclosures are there about the financials, the description of the business, as I say, over the decades, key risk, and investors really get to decide what they think is material. And over the last 10 years, investors more and more have been looking for, and companies are making these disclosures.
No, I get it. There are activists, investors with a political agenda. I mean, that's clear. And they want certain types of information. But what I hear you saying is this federal agency really has the job of vetting to see whether those agendas are being carried out, is really what I hear you saying. Almost, and I'll contrast it, because when I hear of a billionaire flying a private jet to Davos to talk about climate risks, and then going off to the Super Bowl and Hollywood parties and saying they've been able to offset their credits doing some other project that they're involved in, I think that person is being hypocritical, but I don't think they're breaking any laws. And what I view a federal agency like the SEC would be, you'd be responsible for making sure people aren't breaking laws, not the fact that they're being hypocrites. And so that's where I want to understand really what your philosophy is when it comes to evaluating climate as part of your role of an agency.
It's far narrower than the word that you chose. It's not about vetting. It's about two things. We had this discussion. It's ensuring that those disclosures being made, particularly the material disclosures, are not misleading the public. They're full, fair, and accurate. And there's also a part of our responsibility that on certain disclosures that they be made, they be required, like the financials, like the executive compensation, things like that.
Okay, but in the case of sort of the disclosures, why not have a private entity like Standard & Poor's or Moody's or someone who can look at all the stuff these companies are saying to appeal to a certain agenda, and let them do that, and you stay in the business of the regulation and, you know, preventing fraud, which in my mind, when you say, you know, the SEC's been involved with, when it comes to environmental liabilities, you know, let's say there's a major cleanup that a company has to have, or a consent decree that they're part of with the EPA that's going to cause them financial risk. I get why you would evaluate that. But when it comes to them putting stuff on their website and saying they're following all these sort of social norms, why in the world would you want to expend valuable resources for your agency being in that role?
It's really to protect the public that there's not materially misleading disclosures, and it's also to promote the capital formation that investors get something consistent and they can make comparative. There's a comparison between these investment choices.
But if I'm an investor in a company like that, can't I hire someone to give me advice on, okay, this company's doing what they say they're going to do, this company isn't? Why is it the SEC's role?
I think Congress decided many decades ago that it is our role because it's a role to help promote capital formation in this country, and promoting it by having a federal agency like ours to help bring some consistency. And some of that consistency is well established, of course, like generally accepting accounting principles and how you book revenues. And some is more emerging in these last dozen years, that there's a lot of disclosures around climate risk and how to help bring some consistency, but it's merit neutral.
Well, I do feel like when the administration wanted to create this disinformation governance board, do you remember when the administration wanted to do that through Homeland Security? It feels very much like this, like you're putting yourself in this role of evaluating the claims of these businesses and really outside of your jurisdiction.
It's really up to the investors to evaluate. It's our role just to help bring some, as I say, truthfulness in advertising, if you wish, and yes, some requirements on material disclosures.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Hinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just to follow up on that briefly, I think it is very clear that with Mr. Cloud's comments that Congress felt the need to pass something in the 117th Congress to clarify the position that it wanted to give you the authority, which again, I would argue you don't have. And we can disagree on that, but I think that congressional intent could not be clearer there. I do want to go back to something, though, that since we've had such a conversation today about the rulemaking process, under Democrat and Republican administrations, we've seen the public comment periods be historically 90 to 120 days, 3 to 4 months for those public comment periods. But all of yours, almost all of yours, I should say almost all, have been dropped to 30 days. Why?
Actually, on average, from the time we vote on our proposals and put them on our websites, we've averaged 78 days.
But for public comment, that narrow time when you're accepting those 30 days, correct?
Now, we accept comments throughout a period of time. When it goes in the Federal Register, it takes some time to get in the Federal Register.
Right, but you're saying average, right? Average of 78 days, but that includes the ones that are longer. So when I'm looking at the intent behind dropping most of them to 30 days, to me that's a transparency problem. To me it says that you want to limit the number of viewpoints that are coming in by limiting it to 30 days. So that's highly concerning. I'm hearing a lot about that from a lot of folks, let's say, about how much time they have to actually formulate and get their opinions in. We talk about that climate rule. Making sure that there's enough time for feedback on both sides of an issue, I think, is very, very important. I want to also go back to the Inspector General's report for just a moment. Have any SEC managers expressed any concerns to you that with the reduced comment time in some of these cases that they are having trouble getting data from all stakeholders?
I want to assure the members too, we get comments even after the comment period. We take meetings. Even this discussion today is part of our administrative record on a number of rules like the climate rule, and we consider that a 5-member commission. So that's just the nature of these things. We have a end of a comment period, but we also often receive and consider comments well beyond this.
So even though the deadline may have passed, you're still actively considering the feedback that you're getting in?
Yes.
Is that fair to say? I think it's concerning, though, when in the report it shows that staff do have concerns here on page 3, that they have not received as much feedback during the rulemaking process, either as a result of shortened timelines during the drafting process or because of shortened public comment periods. So I think that is concerning when we're seeing that in the IG's report directly. There's a direct line there between a shortened comment period and this feedback in the report. Would you agree?
I think there's a sentence in the document that says that.
So yeah, directly connected. So that's where my concern is specifically with the timing there. As far as recommendations from the IG, how many of them are withstanding? How many have been resolved?
We work with the Inspector General's office to resolve comments. Most of, if I recall, were about human resources and hiring. And we go through that process with them. We'd have to get back to you to tell you.
I would appreciate within I think we're asking for about 15 business days. If you would get those back to me within the next couple of weeks, I would certainly appreciate that. Thank you. I yield back.
Mr. Cloud.
Thank you. Chair, you continue to kind of say over and over that, okay, these businesses, they're already producing these, reports, and therefore, but there's a difference between a company who voluntarily is doing something of their own initiative because they want to, and the strong arm of the federal government coming in and requiring it for every business because there's a few businesses that want it. Can Can you not acknowledge that there's a big difference in that?
As we've discussed, there's attributes of our disclosure regime for decades that are mandatory and we require. There's some that
Your
are.
proposed rule requires businesses to do this. Not only requires businesses to report, it requires them to report on their entire supply chain and their supply chain in a sense. And it really, to anyone looking at this, really seems, as I think it was Mr. Molinar was saying, you know, really cognizant of a lot of the things we're saying. And you said that your main job is basically to see if they're accurate and true. Is that right?
It's to bring efficiency, as Congress's words, is also to bring efficiency, competition, and capital formation. And so
I mean, if your job is to make sure that these climate reports are true, are you planning to hire a bunch of scientists? Or, you know, I mean, how do you plan to go about that?
The same way we do on other disclosures. It's really to set in place a set of rules, if we were to adopt this, but to set in place a set of rules, and then issuers follow the rules and investors get to make their investment choices.
The other regulations that you talk about that you require reporting on, things like executive salary or, you know, capital that's available and those kind of things, those are all internal metrics that have to do with, you know, the financial stability of a company. To have climate regulations is something, it's a whole different thing. And you're comparing apples and oranges here and pretending they're the same thing, but they're not at all. It's kind of a bizarre approach. There's been values-based investing for a long time. I mean, people can look at companies and decide whether or not, but for the federal government to come in and decide that these are the particular values that we want to force reporting on, I think is very, very troubling. I mean, I'm very concerned about human trafficking and slavery, and a number of the Green New Deal energy sources are mined with child labor in countries throughout Africa, the Congo, for example, and solar panels, a lot of them are built with slave labor in China. Are you planning on requiring reporting on that as well?
Again, this is driven by investors currently are making investment decisions based upon climate risk.
But that doesn't change your mandate at all. If every business in the country came to you and said, we want this, it doesn't change your mandate at all, does it? Until Congress acts.
No,
you don't have any new authorities because 100 businesses, as you said, want this. Want new regulations.
I believe, and our lawyers believe, it's within the mandate Congress has already granted us.
Have you considered that a number of businesses actually like regulation because it creates an uncompetitive environment, particularly large companies that can afford lawyers and the likes to create these reports, and they are much more able to compete in that environment, and it squashes the competition of it helps create the wealth gap. And have you considered that into your consideration on whether to promote these rules or not?
We do consider promoting competition for small business as well as competition among all the issuers as well.
I only have a minute left, so I wanted to touch on this while we can. It's a different topic, and that is there was a mention about people in Congress stock trading. That's certainly a concern that's worth looking into. One thing that's completely overlooked that there's no transparency on, I have an act it's called the Divest Act, is to look into agency heads at a certain level and up who are investing in stocks in areas that they're regulating as well. Are you familiar with the Wall Street Journal report that came out in, I think it was last year, August of 22? That touched on this?
I'm generally familiar that there was some reporting, I don't recall which paper, about investing.
It highlights 25% of federal officials who filed public financial disclosures at the SEC were investing in stocks of firms that were lobbying that very agency. And so is that a concern that you are looking into, and would you work with me and maybe even perhaps support legislation like the Divest Act that would make sure that regulators are not investing in the areas that they're overseeing and regulating?
So, yes, we would work with you on technical assistance on any, and this is true of any member, but we'd work with you on it. In terms of the SEC, just in terms of the SEC, we have some of the highest level of restrictions on any trading, partly because of the nature of who we are and so forth, and we work with the Office of Government Ethics. For instance, none of our employees can invest in the sort of the individual, the broker-dealers, investment advisors that we oversee and so forth, or any of the companies that we might be investigating and so forth. There's a lot of restrictions. At my level, it's not even allowed to, the commissioners. We don't even invest in any individual stocks. It's just the broad-based indexes.
Mr. Joyce.
Thank you, Chair. Chair Gensler, how has the huge number of proposed rulemakings at your agency impacted the quality of these rules and your ability to effectively consider comments submitted?
I think that the quality is quite strong, and again, what we're doing is fairly consistent with what my predecessors have done.
Do you think this has affected your attrition rates?
I think that the attrition rate is driven by a tight labor market, really talented staff that are taken, but it's also consistent with other federal agencies at this roughly 6% level.
As you know, the markets certainly don't like uncertainty. Are you concerned that so many transformative new rules likely to be litigated for years and massive swings in policy at the SEC would create uncertainty for many years to come?
I think of our agenda as helping the American public, whether they be issuers or investors, for many years to come.
Okay. Well, under your new collective bargaining agreement with the SEC employee union, I understand most employees will only be required to be in the office 4 days per month. How do you expect to effectively consider comments and perform adequate analysis on over 50 proposed rules with a workforce that barely comes into the office?
The workforce is fully engaged, and I think we've all learned something over these 3 years. We did 3,000 examinations in fiscal 22. We did 760 enforcement actions. We reviewed thousands of companies' filings, and largely through telework. I'm old enough to think, this is new technologies adapting, and people find different work-life balances.
Well, I think the best work that we do is when we're actually together on the floor and have the ability to interact with each other, but I'll take your word for it. I'm give you back the remainder of my time, sir.
For the good of the order, Mr. Hoyer.
Say, I think we're about at an end, Mr. Chairman.
We are, indeed. And with that, I want to thank the members, both my friend's side and on our side. Very, very good hearing. I want to remind our members that they have 7 days to submit questions for the record with the appropriate subcommittee staff. Chair Gensler, as I said in my opening, it's a very important conversation we're having today. You've got a very important job in this country. We thank you for the time that you've given us today. We look forward to working with you as we complete the FY24 FSGG appropriations process.
And I look forward to working with you, and the conversation was helpful for me as well. Thank you.
With that, this subcommittee stands adjourned.
And a good time was had by all.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. The painfulness is over. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. All right, so first things first, let's just digest this, all right? Markets didn't flinch, which is pretty nice. Going to be honest with you. There was nothing that he said that really briefly chiefed out. I saw that. Well done. There was nothing that the market freaked out about. No statements. Now, that being said, did you guys notice there was nothing about FTX, Choke Point 2.0, Mashinsky, none of that stuff. And I'm surprised because they avoided all that. Now, one of the things that I thought was very interesting, though, was that Gensler and the SEC wanting more money at a time of budget cuts. And I think that's where this whole disconnect comes from, okay? Because, when you and I, right, let's just talk as if we're hanging out, okay? If you or I lose a shift at work, we make less on that check, right? If we're in a slow season or we have bad weather, it happened to me in Iowa all the time. When I used to live in Iowa, we'd get bad snowstorms. I'd have to shut down plants for like a day or two at a time. That's all wages lost by employees, And when you lose out on those shifts, you don't go to the store and spend the same amount. You don't put the same amount into savings or this or that, right? You have to cut back. And it's hard. It's not easy. It's not easy telling your kids, no, we have to cut back on our spending. I didn't work as many shifts this week. And what bothers me is we're not seeing any government officials tackling budget finance with the same approach. And that's where we're in trouble. Decline Management says any overseas exchanges without KYC, that'll take us. Everyone give Decline Management a big thank you. Yeah, and if you guys know any exchanges without KYC that'll take you, let Decline Management know. Please let them know. When you do your response, do an @Decline Management so Decline Management knows. Yeah, that'll be a good question. Any exchange out there that don't know KYC stuff. But that's what bothers me is you do when you have those times where you've missed out on shifts and you can't afford stuff and you have to cut back, right? You have to put money on the credit card, but then when the credit card maxes out, you can't do it anymore. Well, the U.S.'s credit card's maxed out and you still have agencies asking to spend more money. That's just not cool. That is just not cool. And I get it, right? We need to regulate things, and I do understand that, right? There is a need for some regulation, right? But time and time again, they said SEC overreach. So when I'm looking at this, when I'm thinking at it, and how I feel about it, and by the way, does anyone know when I wrote the SMDFTB, what that was up there? Comment in the chats. But it's crazy. It's very crazy to think that we're just going to keep spending more money. Let's just keep spending more government money, more government funds. I mean, that's crazy. Crazy stuff. Oh. One Morty Me said he flat out lied earlier when asked about crypto regulation. He said there was regulation. He knows there's no clear regulation. It's a farce. Totally true. That was a farce. That totally was a farce. There's no clear-cut regulations. Yeah, Decline Management, man. Way to use the chat, dude. Smart move. Shout out. Eric Garcia, QCoin, thank you. I just want the majors. Decline Management reaching out. Smart move. Thank you guys for helping them out. Good community work here. Oh, okay. So when I wrote up there, Gary SMDFTB, if I have any Deezus and Marrow fans in here, SMDFTB means suck my from the back. Thought you would like that. But anyways, that's the big takeaway. The other big takeaway is that we have an ally in the crypto industry, and you need those. You need those. And that's something I'm going to say. For those of you out there that are like, what is environment? What is, farming? What does regulations and all that crap have to do with crypto? It doesn't. But remember the phrase, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And right now, if Gary Gensler's the enemy, and one of Gary Gensler's enemies is the farmers out there that don't want to worry about disclosure with all that crap, then yes, we have an ally. Crypto has an ally in the farmers, all right? So yes, was this hearing a lot about crypto? There was some about it. He danced around. It's a very touchy subject. But we learned that farmers and the green disclosure crap out there, seems very agenda-ish if you ask me, are pushing back against Gensler as well. FYM and SMD. I like that. I like that. From the back, that's right. From the back, man. From the back. So, as we go through this, we're going to see more that comes up of it. His statement right here, if you go to the House Appropriations Committee, you have the statement. It shows what their requests are. It's got a whole bunch of stuff in here. But big mess with Gensler. I mean, just destroying crypto. I did a story earlier talking about how estimates right now have it that Gensler and the SEC have ruined over 1 million jobs in the United States. High-paying jobs. Like high-paying, high-skill jobs. Now, I get it, right? It's not helping out the common worker. I understand that.
but it's still money. It's still ecosystem because those high-paying jobs, they go into stores and support retail. They go to places and support the service industry. So just Gensler's action, we lost, man. A million jobs with that. And we know there's way more because we know exchanges are losing money and have to lay off people. You can blame Gensler for that. You can blame Coinbase and Gensler for all that kind of crap. Oh, man. Michael Powell says, that was an awesome saying from the back. Priceless, yes. SMDFTB. SMD, that's an easy one, FTB. All right. Oh, God. So, what we're looking at right now, though, is the big news. Are you ready for the big news? Big news is, and we broke it at the beginning of the stream, everyone. No, Gary Gensler does not deserve a halo. Come on now, one. No, he doesn't deserve a halo. But the big breaking news came right before this hearing. This comes from the Financial Services GOP. Look at my man with the bow tie on the screen. Patrick McHenry, flexing the bow tie. You know he's packing the big beef down there. Patrick McHenry confirms SEC Gov Chair Gary Gensler will testify before the House Financial Services Committee on April 18th. You want to know what's juicy about that? Listen to this. Republicans will hold Gary Gensler accountable for his flagrant disregard of the law, jurisdiction, and APA. This is from the House Financial Services Committee. You want to know Gary getting hit hard? The 18th of April. That is going to be big. Roman Empire deserves a big thank you. Roman Empire drops a 10 on us. Says, let's kick Gary Gensler in the nuts. Thanks for the stream. You got it, Roman Empire. And hey, Roman Empire, that's like 3 or 4 streams in a row that you have super chatted. So let's give Roman Empire like a massive thank you. Because I think it's like 3 or 4 streams in a row, dude, that you've dropped money on this. So seriously, huge shout out. Huge shout out. But this is it here. Now, I'm not getting partisan, okay? I'm not trying to be partisan here, okay? But what I am noticing, though, is that crypto is becoming very partisan. Okay? The people that were soft on Gary were people that were okay with using climate change as an agenda pushing things forward. And again, I'm not getting political here, but you could see in that hearing there's definitely starting to be this divide formed, and I don't like that. Because when you politicize something, you get it to be like half the people like it and half the people don't, right? We just can't get along. And crypto benefits both sides. Both sides. So I don't know, man. I don't know. That kind of bothered me a little bit. But yeah, the big news, April 18th. They said it. Republicans will hold Gary Gensler accountable for his flagrant disregard for the law, jurisdiction, and the APA. Aaron Ritterbush says, before the 18th, how many more can destroy Gary? You're going to get more people, I think, pissing on Gary. Here's the thing. Gary Gensler in the SEC, what's going to happen here, you're going to get a lot more political pressure on him costing votes, okay? If we can start tying it in to, hey, look, you support Gary Gensler, your regime, it's costing you votes, that's how you can hurt people. Yeah, you can hurt them with budget. They already said, hey, we have to consider a 30% cut. And he's like, whoa, are you serious? Yeah, no shit. We all have to cut budgets. Everyone does. By the way, even ad revenue for me for the channel, ad revenue for me is down anywhere from 20 to 30%. So for the same number of views, the advertisers are paying 20 to 30% less. Does that mean I can keep spending money the way I want to? No. It means I have to cut my budget. So Gary, if spending is down and the government's in trouble, we all have to trim the fat. We all have to be financially responsible. Oh, God. Big problems. Big problems. So yes, it's not a right or left side of the aisle thing. But are the Republicans going to use this, though, as a votes thing, right? Hey, Gensler's costing you votes. Gensler's hurting the economy. The SEC overreach, blah, blah, blah. You could see it. Kick the SEC in the wallet. That's right. Definitely. So yeah, be ready for the April 18th. We are definitely going to be live streaming that action right there. Beans, that's right. Robert Melvin's talking about Beans and Stellar. And that's something too. Great app, by the way, Robert. Seriously, great app, man. Stellar right now, XLM sitting above that 10-cent mark. That is key right now. Key resistance, floor support. Resistance when it's under 10, floor support when it's at 10. Texas Sweet Tea says, I'm a science dork, and I tell you, climate has always been changing since the dawn of time. Texas Sweet Tea, I'm also a man of science. Science and math. And what I can tell you is that in science, I'm also big into stats, if you don't know. When it comes to science and stats, we talk about data pools. How big is the data pool relevant to the total scope? All right, and we come up with ratios between data pools and full scope. If we talk about climate change, and I don't mean to be getting on a pedestal, but you brought it up, Texas Sweet Tea. We talk about climate change, our data set of temperature is this big compared to the entire timeline. So when it comes to data, we're putting a lot of weight on a very, very small amount of data without knowing how it applies to the bigger spectrum. Remember, everyone, there was an ice age. How did we thaw from that ice age? Well, I don't know. It wasn't because of cars or pollution or any of that stuff. It's because the world and the globe changes. Oh, man. Robert Melvin says, Klaus, is today a new record for viewers? Yes, it is. Thank you, everyone. Today was a huge record for viewers. Jesse Martinez says, math never lies no matter what language we speak. I love those words, Jesse. Good for you, man. Texas Sweet Tea says, just sub, like the way you think. Well, thank you, Texas Sweet Tea. I appreciate it. And that's something that I want you guys all to do. If you're not subscribed, please do. It really helps out quite a bit for the channel. It really does. But science, right? Science, data, and all that stuff. It's all about your pool of data that you take versus the entire realm of scope. The smaller your data is, your numerator, all right? Because you go by your data versus the realm. The smaller your numerator is and the bigger your denominator is, the more you're effed. Just throwing it out there. Dinosaurs, I gotcha. Well, yeah, and Ajax Norton is right. Back in the Ice Age, there was more smog from mammoth trucks, and mammoth trucks were bigger. That's very true. Dinosaurs were powered by diesel back in the day, just to let you guys know. Diesel dinosaurs, and they didn't have any, catalytic converters or DEF. Oh, man. All right, Chris Roberts asks, will I summarize the meeting? You bet your butt I will. All right, so here's the deal. Meeting came out like this. Gary Gensler, you are using overreach in several ways. You're using overreach using climate agenda to make farmers and all the people in Iowa and the ag states disclose more, which is more of a burden for them. It all of a sudden means they have to spend more money. And think, farmers' margins are already fairly slim. You now add more burden to farmers' margins, that's going to be bad. The other thing we learned is that they even said, hey, Gary Gensler, how are you regulating crypto when we don't even have regs yet? And Gary's like, no, you know what? We got regs from 33 and 34 that apply. And they're like, no, you don't. You don't. The other big takeaway we got from the meeting is that the meeting was led by Gary Gensler's godfather. Oh, so now how are you going to hold someone accountable if the godfather, his literal godfather, was the head of this thing? And every time Gary was in trouble, there were 2 times he stepped in and ran cover for him. And he took the question and he didn't 180 it, but he pivoted the question to make Gensler look better. That was not cool. That pissed me off. Michael Powell dropping a 5 on us. Thank you, Michael. Everyone, let's give Michael a big thank you. Michael says, good job today. Gary Gensler with the climate change, W2F, spring, summer, fall, winter is all climate change. And that's the whole thing. Gensler is using every opportunity he can to overreach, to expand the budget. And you saw what this was about. There's one side that's sitting, hey, look, let's not, raise the budget. The other side's like, we need to raise the budget. Guys, we're not getting the money in. We should not raise the budget. We should not raise debt ceiling. We should not raise budget. We should cut back now. Be fiscally responsible. The reason we're in financial trouble right now is because we're not fiscally responsible. Other key takeaways from the meeting is that Gensler was held accountable with several questions. He dodged them. To be honest with you, he dodged them. And even his demeanor was very slimy. It's, okay. You know how, some people are villains? Certain characters are, really good villains. They play a good villain. Gensler would be one of those. His Mr. Burns kind of look, right? His Gargamel vibes. Hold on, guys. I got your back. Right? his Gargamel vibes. You know what I mean? He's got that kind of slimy grossness to him. And that was apparent during this hearing. And people were calling him out on it. So that's pretty much how the hearing went. The big news is found outside the hearing, well, in addition to the hearing, where the 18th Financial Services is going to hold Gary Gensler responsible, April 18th. Decline Management says Democrats fiscally responsible, laughing. I know, I was throwing it out there. Whew, man. Crazy stuff, guys. So right now what we're going to do is this. We're going to end the stream at 4:45. Any last questions, comments, get them in now. 4:45 Eastern time will be the stream end. I got to get a little bit more action done today. I got to cook quite a bit. Got to get ready. I got to get up early tomorrow. Long day ahead of me. But let's pounce around the market a little bit. Data can be manipulated, but then it's not really data, is it? Oh, see, data is not manipulated. Once you manipulate data, it's no longer data. Remember, guys, I'm a Lean Six Sigma person, too. Oh, that's right. So when it comes to data that's not real, data that's not accurate is useless. It's not considered data anymore. It's a waste. So be careful for that. Jesse Martinez says, thank you, Klaus, for your broadcast. Well, thank you, Jesse. Thank you, all of you. I love that. Wear that blue bow tie on the 18th, Klaus. I don't have one, dude. I wish, man. I wish I could rock the bow tie. Decline Management says, have a great day, Stream Klaus. Decline Management, thank you very much for the 2 supports, 1 early and 1 late. Thank you, Decline. I appreciate it. Oh, man. Messy stuff, guys. Messy stuff with the market here. I think a lot of us were hoping to get maybe a little bit more teeth into Gensler's testimony, you know. But it didn't happen. It was very hard because you saw, what am I cooking? I'm actually doing pork chops right now, trimming the fat, and then I'm going to throw them up on the grill. So, pork chops. Lean cut pork chops. Oh, yes, Lean Six Sigma Kaizen, dude. Yes, that is exactly who this guy is. I am definitely Mr. Kaizen. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's the problem with all of this, is that we don't have the regs. And I'm glad Michael Rose says this. We're going to get into this. Michael Rose says, how can Gary Gensler say there's always been regs when the SEC took so long to act when their job is to protect us? I know it's fair notice defense. Whoa, hey there. Let's kill this. Ooh, hey, sorry about that. Here's the thing. When it comes to Gary Gensler and fair notice defense and all that, the problem is he did delay it. The problem is like he not only delayed it, but it's like he let the cat get out of the bag so big that it's like, oh my God. Like, and I think we have to blame Gensler for that. Jason Clemens coming in, dropping 5 on us. Everyone's give Jason a big thank you. Says, go Klaus, found you late. Never missed one since. Truth, humor, and facts. My kind of crypto fact hunting and reporting. I like it. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. That was the first super chat from Jason. Everyone give Jason a big thank you. But yeah, Lean Six Sigma data and all that kind of stuff. Gensler, overreach, SEC. It's budget time, guys. It's. I understand it. And so Texas Sweet Tea says, how do you decipher what's real data and what's made up? Research more. Okay, so data curves and data lines, I don't mean to dork out, but data curves and data lines have a deviation variation, okay? As you get more data, your deviation variation gets further away from perfect distribution and becomes more predictable. Perfect distribution is a distribution of 50-50 odds. They don't always end on 50-50. If you flip a coin 1,000,000 times, you don't get heads 50% of the time, you don't get tails 50% of the time. All right. As your data pool gets bigger, you can derive more deviation in terms of like your scatters on top of the bottom. You can simply start cutting them out. The other way is you replicate the data from a different source. You take the same experiment, the same whatever, and you replicate it from a different source using the same protocols, same rules. Then you could tell that your data set is at least applicable. Once your data set is applicable and validated, then you can extrapolate all your action from there. But seriously, what's the point in putting any work in if we haven't validated data? So keep that in mind. Sorry, I didn't mean to dork out on you guys. I'm a big Lean Six Sigma guy, so all this kind of stuff I'm really huge into. Decline Management said, I thought my PC started melting. I like that. Oh, man. Klaus, do you think Judge Torres is waiting until after this hearing to give her judgment on purpose? You know, Michael, I'm glad you brought that up. Here's something I'm curious about, Michael. And holy crap. Wait, hold on a second, guys. Hold on here. All right, sorry about that. Hold on a second. Sorry. I'm looking at this, and it says, with Judge Torres on the judgment, I do think there's going to be some coordination. Judge Torres is right now so... she's in public eye. Let's be real here. The case is huge, okay? The case is massive. She is going to coordinate it with her superiors. They're going to do this so that this is all done, because this is a big thing. So it's not like you're just going to have a random. So if there's some like event happening, there is definitely going to be a professional reciprocity to those people saying, okay, we're not going to make our announcement during, say, this hearing or during this announcement. We're going to do it when there's a good time. But remember, Judge Torres is not under any deadline to get it done at the end of this month, so be very careful with that. All right, everyone, we got the stream coming to an end in the next couple minutes. Let's get our last questions and comments in. Huge stream today. Lots of fun. Had a blast. We learned that Gensler's godfather was the head of this thing. What the hell is going on? At least they disclosed it, man. Crypto Cream says this is valuable information. Geeking out is most valuable. Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. I definitely like to geek out. I'm a big lean guy. I'm big into finance. I'm really big into manufacturing, both high volume and custom mass manufacturing. That's what my background is in. Quantsum says, great job, Klaus. Hope the Republicans tear him apart. Their verbiage is strong. Right now, I'm going to be honest with you. Here's their verbiage. This is what tells me that maybe we need to pay a little bit more attention to this one. And mind you, this is coming from Emin. This is public. This is on Twitter. All right? Republicans will hold Gary Gensler accountable for his flagrant disregard for the law, jurisdiction, and APA. It's not like Gensler's here as a hearing to explain his views. No. Flagrant disregard for the law. So maybe this one does have teeth. All right, everyone, it is 4:45. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play some tunes. Make sure you guys say goodbye to each other in the chat because the chat family has been growing. Shadow Smith says, night, y'all. Night, Klaus. Catch you on the beat soon. Thank you, Shadow Smith. Enjoy your retirement, by the way. All right, so what I am going to do is I am going to play some music. Let's jam out a little bit, everyone. Well, I'm obviously going to pause the music and say goodbye to Ben. Thanks, Ben, again for everything, man. I greatly appreciate it, and I'm super humbled by all the support. It has just been a huge blessing. So, Ben, super thank you, man. I had to cut the music off to make sure I gave you a personal goodbye, sir.